And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Sullivan versus Saylor. Step forward, please.
Bartender Cheryl Sullivan is suing pipefitter Flore Saylor for the return of a down payment on a car and harassment. Cheryl says Flore scammed her into buying a lemon.
Miss Sullivan, you purchased a used car from the defendant.
Correct.
And it is your claim that the car came with a 90-day money-back guarantee.
Yes, it did.
And...
That's
Excuse me?
Say what?
That's no. That's not true.
Bird, would you take him outside and let's have a discussion with him? If he
Sure.
can behave himself, then you can come back inside. If he can't, I'll rule in the plaintiff's favor.
Will do.
Very good.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The joke was 30-30 warranty. 30 feet for 30 seconds. Which one ever
don't
expires first?
even go
Miss
there.
Sullivan, try answering my question. If I want the joke, I'll turn on the Comedy Central channel.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cheryl Sullivan says Flore Saylor scammed her into buying a lemon. Flore says Cheryl knew she was buying the car as is.
My apologies.
It is your claim that the car came with a 90-day money-back guarantee.
Yes, it is.
You drove the car for a period of time. The car stopped functioning properly. You took it back to the defendant, and you want your money back.
Correct.
The defendant says the car was purchased as is. As a matter of fact, he's not counterclaiming, but he said that you paid him $500 of the $800, which was the agreed-upon purchase price of the car. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you purchase this car from the defendant?
I purchased this vehicle back in July last year. When I purchased this vehicle, I needed...
Just a second. I'll ask questions. You purchased it in July. July what?
The actual date would be June 27th. I purchased this vehicle.
Much is it, July or June?
Mr. Saylor.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Did you see the car advertised, or you bought it from him because
No,
you
not
knew?
at all. Jay Saylor came into my place of business, and he knew the fact that I required a vehicle that was going to transport me back and forth to the hospital to keep my medications up. He said, I have a reliable vehicle for you. I can't stand seeing you drive the vehicle that you're driving now. I am not a used car salesman. I would never do anything to harm you.
Listen, stop with the drama. June 27th, you agreed to purchase this car. Did you go and look at it?
Yes, I looked at it. Jay was working on it
Where did you go to look at it?
at his home.
What kind of car was it?
Mazda RX-7,
What year?
1986.
So at the time you purchased the car, it was 15 years old. Is that
Correct.
right?
Mr. Saylor had indicated that the engine in it was fine because he ran these things and he was going to use it for his racing engine, so to confirm the fact it was going to be a good engine.
Now, at the time, the agreed price of the car was $800,
Correct.
and you gave him some money down. Over
I
a
would pay
period
him
of time.
$50 a week through a course of weeks until finally money was paid up to $500. After $500, he said I could then take the title and have it transferred into my name.
Which is what you did.
It's exactly what I did.
On what date did you pick up the car?
The exact date that I picked up the car from Mr. Saylor was June 27th, 01.
Is that the day you gave him the $500?
There was the final payment of the final $500.
Okay, but you had seen the car previously then.
I had seen it. Was not allowed to test drive it, though, because Mr. Saylor continuously was working on the engine, telling me he was getting all the bugs out.
Miss Sullivan, you weren't a prisoner. If you wanted to test drive the car before you gave him money, you could have test driven the car
He
or
wouldn't let
said, I'm not buying this car until I test drive it. Right?
Right, but he wouldn't
Or
let me.
say to him, before I buy this car, I want it to be in running order, and I want to take it to my own mechanic, which is what usually people do when they purchase a used car. Put your hand down, sir. I'll get to you in a minute.
Okay.
You understand?
Yes.
I mean, you're not a baby. You're not 18 years old. You buy a used car. You say, I want to take it out. I want to test drive it myself. I want to take it over to a mechanic. You chose to purchase the car without test driving it.
Mr. Saylor put me in the vehicle as a passenger, and he drove the car for an original test drive. When we did this test drive, he himself chose a few flaws that he wanted to have corrected. So he kept the vehicle to correct it. When July 4th came along, I got the vehicle. I drove the vehicle for the first time.
You're going to tell your story no matter what my questions are.
Sorry.
You picked up the car from him on June 27th, according to you. Mm-hmm. And when did you have the car titled in your name?
June 27th.
And did you drive the car to and from work the first week in July?
Yes. It overheated every time.
But you drove it to and from work every day for the next week. On what date did you return the car to Mr. Saylor?
Don't have that down here. in my
Do you
other
recall the
papers.
date, Mr. Saylor, that Ms. Sullivan ultimately brought the car back to you?
Yes, I do.
What was the date?
29th of July.
So she had the car approximately a month and 2 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I had the car 2 weeks.
No,
to
no,
the
no,
day,
no, no. If you
14
don't know,
days.
listen, don't speak to him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cheryl Sullivan says Florrie Saylor scammed her into buying a lemon. Florrie says Cheryl knew she was buying the car as is.
The only issue that I have to resolve is whether Mr. Saylor gave you a 90-day money-back guarantee on this 15-year-old Mazda. Can you show me any proof?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it.
The proof I have here is my witness, secondary witness, could not make it here due to the fact of her medical conditions.
I don't read statements. I do not read statements.
This statement states to the fact that
Now listen
she
to
and
me.
everyone else heard this.
I don't read statements, and you can't tell me what the statement is. Do you have any proof, a bill of sale that says 90-day money-back guarantee?
No, I do not have a bill of sale of 90-day money-back guarantee. But what I do have is I have a bill of sale here with Mr. J. Saylor here as indicated to the fact that he owes me money still.
Let me see.
He took the vehicle back in good faith.
Just a minute, just a minute. Did you write this letter, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, let me read it. Well, Miss Sullivan, this doesn't say that he owes you money. This says that you owe him money.
That's his indication that I owe him money.
Right.
That's his
This
indication
says-
that I've paid him money for him to owe me back.
Let me read the letter to you. Due to the
Yes, ma'am.
circumstances, after further investigation, it is my opinion that the engine is blown due to lack of oil, in which you were informed of on Sunday night that the car was at least 3 quarts low. In later investigation of the engine, it was found to have mud in the radiator, water pump, overflow pot, and the block. There is the matter of the $300 remaining balance, which at this time is 3 weeks late. There are also additional charges for parts and services rendered. Radiator installed, $150. The investigation of the car, $65 per hour. Water pump for new spark plugs, a lot of baloney. If you have any other questions, please feel free to call me. This is not a 90-day guarantee. This says you owe him the other $300 for the car.
guarantee was a verbal agreement between he, me, my boyfriend at the time, and a lodge full of people.
Well, do you have any
He's-
witnesses to that?
I do have a witness. My witness here is Joe Lynn. Joe Lynn.
All right, step
Joe
up, please.
wasn't there.
Your
Joe
last
is
name?
the witness.
I don't want to hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your last name, sir?
Lynn, L-Y-N-N.
Were you present in her place of employment when the deal was made for this
No,
car,
I
sir?
was not.
You were not.
I was not.
Were you present when she picked up the car?
I was there when she brought it home that evening.
Okay. What is your relationship to the plaintiff?
I'm her roommate.
Just her roommate.
It's just her roommate, exactly.
So you were there when she brought it home
Right.
on June 27th?
And I also looked the car over. I'm a master mechanic. I looked the car over at that time.
Okay. When you looked it over, did you have any conversation with the plaintiff?
Yes, I did. I told her she should take the car back at that particular time, but she told me there's no problem, that she had a 90-day, guarantee.
Oh, so she told you. You never heard him
I
say
never
it.
heard it from him, no.
All right, sit down. All right, Mr. Saylor, I assume that if I were to ask you the question whether or not you gave her a 90-day guarantee for this car, you would say you did not.
Well, there was mentioning there was 3 people present in the lodge, and we made a joke.
Well, let me
about
hear,
it.
sir.
The joke was 30-30 warranty, 30 feet or 30 seconds, whichever
don't
expires first.
even go
Miss
there.
Sullivan, I'm asking you,
No,
sir.
I didn't give her no 90-day guarantee. No,
I
ma'am.
ask
As
you
is
a
where it is.
question. Try answering my question. If I want joke, I'll turn on the Comedy Central channel.
I'm sorry.
Good. Did you give her a bill of sale for the car?
No, all cash transactions.
And the only question that I have for you, Mr. Saylor, is you indicated in your answer that you sold this car.
I did not sell the car.
What did you do with it?
I gave it away.
To whom?
A teacher that I sold a 88 convertible to.
Why would you give the car away?
I asked her, I went to the lodge, I asked Miss Sullivan what was her intentions with the car. She said she wanted nothing further to do with the car.
I can't believe you're standing here saying
Miss
this.
Sullivan, you don't get it.
Well, I'm not lying.
Mr. Saylor, you don't get it.
Well, she said she
What
wanted
you
nothing.
get is when I ask a question, you answer. When I don't ask a question, you don't
I'm
say
fed up with
anything.
this.
Do you
With her.
understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So try to listen, because I'm in charge here, sir. Now, the title to the car was already in her name. How did you get around that by giving it to somebody else?
Just scrapped it. She told me to do whatever I wanted with it, to get rid of it. And that's what I did.
Well, Mr. Saylor, you see, this is your problem, sir. Ordinarily, I would rule in your favor in this case, because I don't believe that anybody in their right mind sells a 15 or 16-year-old car with a guarantee. And unless that guarantee is in writing, I would not give any credibility to her statement that you gave her a 90-day guarantee. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
However, your problem is, sir, you either gave away, scrapped, or sold her car. And what you should have done was say, you bought it, kiddo. It's in your name. I have nothing more to do with it. And if you feel as if you want to, you sue her for the balance of the car, which was another $300. Do you understand?
Yes.
However, you had no right to give away her car. You had no right to scrap her car. You had no right to sell her car, if that's what you did. So you have to pay her what she paid you. I'm not ruling that you gave her a guarantee. I don't believe that you did. But you exercised dominion and control over her car by giving it, selling it, or scrapping it to somebody else. And you can't do that. So judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Hey. Yeah, this is case number 512 on the calendar in the matter of Gerstberger versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Ms. Gertzberger, you and the defendant have a child together.
Yes,
How old is that child?
7,
And how long have you lived apart?
approximately 3 years.
According to your complaint, both of you were at your son's school, and outside of the school, the defendant was riding his bike, and you and your fiancé were in your car, and the defendant threw rocks at your car. The defendant says he never threw rocks at your car, but that you filed a false police report, as a result of which he was arrested, I assume, for vandalism. He was tried, found not guilty, and he wants to be reimbursed for his attorney's fees. Is that right?
Correct.
When did this incident occur?
September 6th of 2001,
What were you doing at the school?
dropping my son off for his first day of school.
And is that why you were there too, sir?
Correct.
Did you see the plaintiff before she went in?
Yes, I did.
Did you have any discussion with her?
No.
Is that correct?
No, it's not, Your Honor. My fiance and I had arrived at the school to drop David off, and when we walked in the door, Daniel was standing there. There were words exchanged.
What kind of words?
The only statement that I heard at that time was Daniel make a reference to Paul, stating, just remember who his father is, referring to David.
Okay.
And Paul responded back with, well, who tucks him in at night? At that point, I ushered my son
That was a
forward.
stupid statement.
Yes, it was.
Of course it was.
The words were exchanged. Unfortunately, I ushered my son away from it because I didn't want him to have to hear that. We proceeded to go up to the classroom to drop him off.
You both went into the classroom.
Yes,
Who left first?
Daniel did.
No, that's not correct.
Who left first?
They did. I waited for them to leave because me and Paul were still arguing in the classroom over the fact that they had written my son's last name as David Wilson Bass on his folders, and I introduced myself to...
Introduce yourself as the child's father.
No, ma'am, I did not.
Did you know that the defendant was going to be there that day?
No, I did not, ma'am.
We
Well,
do
I
have
feel-
joint custody of the child.
All right. What happened when you got outside? You tell me first, your version.
Okay. Paul and I had stopped on the way out, spoke to a couple of friends. When we got outside, we had proceeded to the truck. Daniel was on his bike riding up the street. We drove up the street and the
Past
rocks.
him?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And I heard something hit the vehicle. I looked out and Daniel was there. I assume what he threw was rocks causing the damage. I do have pictures of the damage he caused. We proceeded up the street to a red light. We got to that red light. Daniel had gotten up there also. An altercation ensued where
Tell me about the altercation.
Daniel was outside of the vehicle, yelling,
You
screaming.
mean he got off the bike?
Yes, being very irate. Paul was inside the vehicle and he was trying to get out of the vehicle. I was trying to keep Paul in the vehicle, saying, he's not worth this. You're just going to get in more trouble. Don't bother. We'll go to the police and let the police handle it. And that was the end of it. We went to the police station, filed the police report, and got an estimate for the damage.
Okay, now let me hear your version of these events, sir.
Okay, on that day, September 6, 2001, I was in my son's classroom after they
Don't
had...
start from the beginning. Just go to, now you're outside. You have words with
Okay.
Paul, who said some stupid things.
Okay, I'm coming to the front door of the school, and I look out the window of the school door, and I see right directly across the street their vehicle. They're in it, and they leave. I then proceed a quarter of a mile down the walkway to a bike rack where my bike was locked up. They must have turned around and came back because they came down Girard Avenue, and Paul was yelling out the passenger window saying, I ain't no effing father, I'm big fat, this and that, and everything else.
To you.
To me. So I then proceeded to get on my bike to just leave. So I made a left and turned down 66th Street, and they come up behind me. They swerve at me, yelling out the window, I better pedal because I'm big and fat and everything else. And they continued down 66th Street. When I got to where Dunkin' Donuts is, they were at a red light, and there's an alley behind Dunkin' Donuts. I took my bike, went behind the alley. I then went home and proceeded to file a police report against Mr. Bass and received a restraining order and had it issued for the incidents that occurred that day.
Can I see your copy of the police report, please?
I don't have a police report, ma'am. I was unable to get one. I also, however, was issued a restraining order against Daniel.
So you have mutual restraining orders.
Yes.
No, her restraining order is no longer in effect due to the fact that she got a restraining order based on the false charges that were filed against me. And when I won my criminal mischief case and it was all dismissed, they told me that the order of protection was also dismissed with it.
Okay, so you have an order of protection?
On Mr. Bass, yes, I do.
Now, there's something in the papers here that you folks are involved in some family court proceedings. Is that right?
Yes.
Tell me about those proceedings.
It's a very messy relocation hearing.
Who wants to relocate?
I do.
Well, where do you want to go to?
I want to go back to Pittsburgh, which is where I'm originally from. I have a job waiting for me.
And where do you live, sir?
Niagara Falls.
And you lived together as a family with your son for 4 years before you separated?
On and off, Your Honor. It wasn't a steady 4 years. There was a history of physical abuse, verbal abuse. It was ugly.
Well, maybe the judge will let you go back to Pittsburgh.
I'm hoping.
Well, but not with your son. You go back and live with Paul. You don't take the child away just because you have a job.
Well, we have
Mothers think that they can just pick up their children and leave and go hundreds and hundreds of miles away for somebody you have an order of joint custody?
Correct.
And that case was ongoing when you had this case?
Yes.
When this situation took place?
Correct.
Yes.
It was 3 days before the actual trial was going to start.
Well,
And if they would have
how
got...
fortuitous to have him arrested for criminal mischief at that time.
Your Honor.
Especially when you're going through a situation. Listen, I want to tell you something. You may have found a new life, and that's wonderful. And you may have found a very nice man to be, surrogate father when his father isn't around, to be there and to be another male influence. And hopefully it's a good influence, and that's fine. But you're not his father. End of discussion. You're not his father. And you don't say to his father, who tucks him in at night. That's a really dumb thing to say. And you certainly don't register a child at school and give a last name as Bass.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sherry Gertzberger says the father of her child, Daniel Wilson, threw a rock at her car. Daniel claims the incident started when Sherry's fiancé insulted him in front of their son.
All right. According to your testimony today, madam, you did not see him throw anything at your car.
No.
If I believed your story that he merely chased you on his bicycle while you were in a truck, which doesn't sound normal. Maybe it was a pebble that hit your car. Who knows?
Your Honor?
If anything hit your car, but you didn't see him hit your car at all.
No, but my witness did.
Really? Call the witness.
Well, I'm a little nervous, Your Honor. Just bear with
That's
me.
very good.
Okay, no, on that
You're
day-
screaming out the window at him.
No, that's not how, no, Your Honor. Okay, after we left the school, there was no word said to him. Okay, we were driving down the car, down the street in our car. Okay, he's on his bike. We drive past him.
Why?
As we drive past
Just a
him,
second.
that's the way we
Why?
leave, Your Honor, because that's the road that you take to leave.
And why didn't you wait? Why didn't you wait? If you had had negative confrontation with him in the school, which you did, and if you see him, put that down, please. If you see him on his bicycle, and if you don't want to get into a confrontation with him again, then you wait 5 minutes and you say, listen, let him move on with his bicycle so that he's far away so we don't get into this problem. And if you absolutely have to leave, take another route if you're not looking for trouble. Now I'll continue to hear you. You have a good reason to be nervous. Go ahead. Make sure that everything you say is accurate.
All right, Your Honor, it is accurate. Okay, like I said, we were driving down the street. Okay, as we passed him, I seen him throw, I think it was rocks at the vehicle. I
He
heard
had
it
it in his
hit.
hand while he was driving the bicycle.
Yes, Your Honor, that's right.
Okay, sit down.
Okay.
Now, the fact that you were found not guilty after a trial does not necessarily mean that you didn't do it. It
Correct.
just means that the district attorney was not able to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand?
Correct.
But I don't think that they've proven that you damaged the car. I certainly think that the plaintiff had sufficient reason based upon things that were happening at that time. She wanted to be certainly back in Pennsylvania at the beginning of the school year with her child, and she thought she'd be able to get that easily, that it might have been advantageous for her to file charges against you, and thinking that maybe that would give her a leg up in the proceeding.
Your Honor?
Certainly they exercised poor judgment. You exercised poor judgment when, according to him, you saw him leaving the school and got into your truck and followed in the same direction that he was going after there had already been a verbal confrontation in the school, and there should never have been a verbal confrontation in the school involving these two gentlemen when the child was around. That's very bad judgment.
Okay, Your Honor.
Yes.
This man, there's a history here with this. He has done other damage to my vehicle. In August of 2001, he was supposed to be registered in anger management courses to learn how to control his temper, with a severe physical abuse problem. Drugs, alcohol. He ran the whole spectrum of problems. And he was also on conditional release and probation for a previous conviction on a forgery charge. I'm not looking for a problem with him. I'm not looking
Then you shouldn't
for
follow
any further
him.
problems.
Then you shouldn't have followed him.
I should be allowed to drive down any street that I would like to drive down.
Not if you're afraid of him. If what you say is that he has this anger problem, then it would seem to me, if you were a prudent person and say, listen, I don't want to get into a confrontation with this man who is violent. Let's sit in the truck for 3 minutes and let him drive away. Someone that I was afraid of and I thought had a violent temper had gone, left the location. I would sit there and wait until the parking lot was empty before I got up to leave. Or I would take a different route, even if it took me a half a mile out of the way. I wouldn't go looking for trouble. And as I explained to you, sir, the district attorney was not able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you did throw a rock or something else at the car. I'm not satisfied that you didn't, so I'm not giving you your attorney's fees. Bottom line is, you weren't found innocent. You were found not guilty. There's a big difference. You understand?
Correct.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's been arrested numerous times for forgery, abuse, drugs, and he gets away with everything.
They get away with a lot more than anybody really knows about.
This man does whatever he wants, and nobody seems to ever do anything about it.
He's an idiot.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Davidson versus Millard. Step forward, please.
Retired scientist Maxine Davidson is suing her former friend, retired chemist Merle Millard, for credit card charges that were made on a trip to Mexico.
Miss Davidson, according to your complaint, you and the defendant were friends, and he invited you to go on a trip to Mexico in his camper, and he said you would have no expense, that he was going to pay for everything. And you claimed that while you were on this trip, you had to use your credit card for certain things.
Yes.
And you have not been fully reimbursed for all of the charges that were made during that trip, although Mr. Millard did give you some money towards your credit cards and towards the bills. You still have additional bills that you want him to pay for. And Mr. Millard says there was never an agreement that he would make all the payments for all the expenses, that he was supposed to just go together. Is that right, sir?
Correct. It was a 50-50.
That was your arrangement
It's
with
my
her?
understanding.
No, look at me, sir. That was your agreement with her. You would
We
share
never
the expenses 50-50. Is that what you're telling
We
me?
never discussed it.
You never
To
discussed
my
it?
knowledge.
Okay, fine. So it was your assumption.
Correct.
You never had a discussion about it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Maxine Davidson says ex-friend Merle Millard owes for credit card charges he made while they were on vacation in Mexico.
All right, so Ms. Davidson, I'd like you to tell me how this trip came about.
I met Mr. Millard in September, around the 7th on my birthday, at a Kinko's. And we were both doing our life stories in film. And he was very courteous, and he wanted to meet me again, to talk about England. He knows where I'm from, in the north of England. And we never did get to talk about it, but we went out to dinner several times. He didn't have any credit cards because he said he had been bankrupt a year before. So no problem. He gets a very good salary from the government as a scientist. And he would pay me back. Then the next thing is he invites us in his refurbished vehicle, a Winnebago motorhome. And
What did he say
he
to
said,
you?
bring nothing but yourself. We don't need anything. He had plenty of food, plenty to drink. The vacation would be on him because my daughter was visiting with me, and my grandson then of 10 months, he invited them also. She had
And
never
did-
been to Ensenada.
Did they go?
Yes,
The daughter
they
and
went.
grandson went. Mm-hmm. When did you leave on the trip?
Approximately the 21st of October,
Okay.
2000.
And how long was the trip planned?
We went for 2 days, but we stayed 6 because of the vehicle experiencing trouble with the motor. We were stranded there.
Okay, so tell me what happened when you were on this trip and what you spent money
Mr.
on.
Millard had no money, no credit cards. He had been bankrupt. He said, don't worry, I will pay you back every penny as soon as I get my money from the government. So, of course, what could I do? I used 3 correct credit cards, 2 of which were stolen or lost. I never did get them back. So when I got back to the USA, I ordered more. Fortunately, they were maxed to the limit, so there were charges on it, more than we made in Mexico.
What kind of expenses did you put on the credit card?
Okay, his finding the parts to put the motor back together, it was something to do with the overheating. The fan was the wrong size.
How much did you spend on the motorhome or the
Close to $1,000 with food and motor parts. Oh, I don't know. You wouldn't tell me.
Answer my.
Never showed
Well,
me
you
the-
must have gotten the credit card receipts.
I did eventually get them.
How much was spent for parts? Didn't it say on your credit
They
card?
weren't separated. He had the cards with him, got a lift, thumbed a lift to get there.
Let
to
me see
where
the bills
there was
from
a
your credit.
versatile.
Miss Davidson, let me see the bills from your credit card company.
They're itemized and copied. And there are bills with his signature were on the cards
Just a minute.
that he spent. Mostly it was for food and entertainment that I used my credit cards as well, because we were there 6 days.
How much did you spend altogether? And I'm not including the money for the restaurants in California.
Approximately around $1,000. He gave me $483 back in the U.S.
$739.71 is what you calculate for international charges. You say U.S. charges
Plus
$130.
the money spent in America.
I'm not talking about the money spent in America. Understand that. I'm taking off the dinners that you say. He said, don't worry, I'll pay you back. I'm not dealing with that. That's
Promise
nonsense.
to pay me back.
That's nonsense. So he owes, according to you, he still owes you $359. Okay. Now, Mr. Millard, tell me about this vacation that you took with Miss Davidson. Why did you invite her on this trip?
Of companionship with her, and also her daughter and her daughter's son. I enjoyed their company.
And did you have any discussion with her, as Miss Davidson says, you know, just bring yourself and a smile and a bathing suit?
Yes, what I told her is I would equip the motorhome with food, and I gassed it up $130 and propane and all that. And we never discussed beyond that. I brought $250 cash along for entertainment and food in addition if we didn't want to eat in the motorhome. So there was never really any discussion that I know of about I was going to pay for it all. I never intended to. I would never do that.
Well, I don't know whether you intended to or not, but let's get down to certain basics. This trip was originally intended to take 2 days. Is that right?
No, I mean, I would never drive it 100 miles and stay 2 days. It's 6 miles to the gallon from my motorhome.
How many days did you plan on being away, sir?
At least a week.
I don't believe you. I don't believe that, sir.
You don't believe it?
No, I don't believe that you planned on being away for a week.
Or more, sure.
No. I don't believe that you planned on being away for a week, sir.
Well, I did.
Never.
I would
No,
never
no.
drive. You know, that's the cost of the motorhome is gas. So
Fine.
why drive it all over? You go
So
somewhere.
you paid for gas. Did you have enough food in your camper for a week?
Sure.
For a week?
Sure.
For 3 people?
Sure.
No.
Yes. Oh, I
No.
understand, of course.
No. And what happened to the camper? Because the camper broke down.
All right, now what happened is the fuel pump began
It
to
broke
fail.
down. I don't care what. It
Yes.
broke down. Don't explain it to me. I don't care
It
about
failed.
gaskets
It
and
broke
fuel
down.
pumps. It broke down.
Yes.
And how many days was it broken down?
3 days.
Right. And after it was finally fixed, did you go back home?
Yes,
Immediately. As soon as
within
it
a
was
day.
fixed.
I think.
And all during that time, those 3 days, you didn't have to buy anything else. Is that right? You had all
Well, what
the
happened
food
is,
and all the drink for these extra.
No, what happened
No.
is we started going out, you know, eating out and boozing it up. And
Well, if you went out eating and boozing it up, you weren't paying because you only had $250
yeah, I
in
ran
cash.
out of that.
And you ran out of that very fast, so you were using her credit cards.
Correct.
Did you use her credit card also to pay for the fuel pump?
All right, there was $60. I went through cash, I think around 100. The fuel pump was 40, and the repair bill, the mechanic, was 60.
I asked you whether you used her money for that, sir.
Yes.
Now, she's not part owner of your Winnebago.
No, of course.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $359. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Kathy Pogue and her daughter, 18-year-old student Dana Pogue, are suing Dana's sister, 20-year-old caregiver Nina Hawk, and her husband, 22-year-old inventory specialist John Hawk. Catherine and Dana say the couple owe for babysitting fees, the value of a couch, and money taken from a bank account. The Hawks are countersuing for 3 months of living expenses.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 135 on the calendar in the matter of Pogue versus Hawk. You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mrs. Pogue, this young lady is your daughter,
Yes, ma'am.
and this is your other daughter,
Yes, ma'am.
and you're the
Husband?
husband. Let's deal with your daughter's lawsuit first, because I think that that might be easier. You are suing your sister because you claim when you were living with her, she had promised to pay you for babysitting.
Yes, ma'am.
And she didn't.
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
18.
How old were you when you were living with your sister?
18.
When did you start to live with your sister?
The middle of February.
Why?
I was kicked out of my father's house because I did not get along with my new stepmother. So Nina and her husband said that it would be fine for me to move in with them.
How long had you been living with your father?
I moved in with my father when I was 15.
Prior to that, you had lived with your mother?
Yes.
Why did you leave your mother's house?
Me and my mom didn't really get along at the time.
Now, what was your living arrangement with your sister?
At the beginning, we lived in an apartment, and I had my own room. And then after that, we moved into a bigger house, so I still had my own room.
Okay. Were you paying any expenses?
Yes. Actually, no, I had them under my name. I had the cable under my name and the telephone under my name, but they were paying it.
So you
Because
were
I
not
was-
paying any expenses in the house?
No, because I was still going to school. And
The answer is you were not. You were 18, but
Yeah.
not paying any expenses
Yes.
in the house.
Yes.
Were you getting any money from your mother and father?
No.
Who was giving you spending money?
My sister.
And how many months did you live with her?
3 months, I think, exactly.
Is that about right?
3.5 months.
So for 3.5 months, you lived while you were legally an adult, 18. You're living with your sister. You're not paying rent. You're not paying for food.
No,
You're not, You're not paying for transportation. And if you had to go to a movie or something, if you wanted to go to a movie or out with friends.
No,
I paid for it.
I never asked her to pay for it.
Did she ever give you any spending money? I mean, I can't believe that in 3.5 months you didn't say, could I have $5 or could I have $10 or...
Bought her clothes, gave her money. Yes, I gave her $50 one time, $30 another just for spending money, paid for her boutonniere for her prom, bought her pants, bought her a whole outfit, bought her food for her bird. She neglected to tell me the last month her bird was without food and it died. But besides that, I paid it all.
So why would you sue her for babysitting occasionally for her children?
Because it was a verbal agreement that she said she would give me $110 from her financial aid for going to school to watch her daughter.
During the summer, if I worked, and she made me almost lose my job. I had only worked there a week and a half, and she bailed out on me every single time I asked her to babysit during that only week and a half that she lived with me and I worked.
I'm not going to bother with your babysitting claim, so now you
Yeah.
can sit down. You should say thank you to your sister and forget it. All right, now let's get to your claim. There came a time when you wanted to use a bank account that was your daughter's. You put money into a bank account that was in her name and her husband's?
Just my name.
Just your name.
She opened the account for me, Your Honor.
She couldn't get an account anywhere else. It was a favor.
But then when you moved that account, there was some outstanding checks, I gather, or outstanding debits, and they took part of the balance that belonged to your mother. You acknowledge that.
Yes.
How much did they take that belonged to you?
$134.77, Your Honor.
Okay, well, you are clearly owed that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. She did not give me a chance to pay it, though.
All right, $134.77.
We called twice, Your Honor, and her husband said to me
After
on the
offering to
phone,
make payments.
no, before I even had any chance to say anything else, her husband said to me, quote unquote, take me to court.
Lick my tongue, Your Honor.
And that was very
Well,
unbelievable.
Yeah, sure is. Not the way to speak to somebody, sir. I'm just telling you, there's no excuse for that.
She called. She called my mom's house because we didn't have a phone at the time, and told my mom what happened. So I think it was like 4 days later, I called her Colette.
He said, I hear you're going to take me to court.
No, just, please.
Okay.
I said, I hear my mom tells me you're going to sue me for money that was taken out of your account to cover our other account. And she said, yes. And I said, and she wanted the money by the 1st. She said it was part of her rent money. I said, I don't know if I can give you all that money by the 1st because my rent's also due. And she said that wasn't acceptable. She needed her money and that I was going to stiff her. And I said, well, then you have to sue me.
No, I'm telling you, sir, that what you said to her was uncalled for.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, good. Then I don't have to yell at you anymore.
Also, Your Honor, he told me that I couldn't see my granddaughter anymore.
He's an idiot.
Well, if you weren't smoking pot and drinking
Oh, no,
alcohol and everything else,
Stop.
maybe I'd allow it.
Please, I am not getting into this. Let me just
No.
take care of the money, please.
Yes.
You want to fight with each other? Do it outside.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your Honor,
Listen to me. Shouldn't say anything else that is going to make any situation worse.
And later today,
They dressed shamelessly and makeup, and they were hellions. We're 9 and 11 going on 17.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Pogue and her daughter Dana Pogue say Dana's sister, Nina Hawk, and her husband John owe for babysitting fees, a couch, and stolen money.
You have some nonsense here about a couch that you say you loaned to your daughter and she sold.
Yes, ma'am.
You sure you want to get into that?
Ma'am, that was the agreement between her and I.
What was the
okay, I had a pretty good sized house, and I was going to move closer to my job.
Go ahead. What year was this?
The beginning of the year 2000.
All right. You said take one of my couches.
I said take both the sofa and the love seat. Please keep them in your control. If you decide to get rid of them, please, I would like them back. Or if you decide to sell them, this is how much I would like for them, because she said that her friend had expressed an interest in buying them. Come to find out, I asked her about them, and she said, oh no, Danielle has them in storage. And I said, oh, well then was Danielle going to buy them? And she said, Danielle already gave me the $350. And I said, well, then why didn't you give it to me? She said, well, I needed to use it at the time. And I said, okay, I understand that, but that was the agreement that you agreed to pay for them.
Go ahead.
This woman talks to me on
No.
a daily basis.
Talk to me about the couches.
She knows exactly what happened. When I was 17, April, she moved out to live with her boyfriend in Vancouver. She left me half the furniture. I've still got the buffet table, the sewing machine, never said anything about payment. I never expected this. I sold it to a friend of mine a year later. I was evicted a week and a half after she moved out because she hadn't paid 4 months' rent.
Okay, when your mother moved, who remained in the house with you?
My boyfriend and his best friend had to move in and help pay expenses.
Just a second. So it was just you and your boyfriend?
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, pretty close.
Pretty close. Forget the couches. Judgment for the plaintiff on your claim for $134.77. Let me deal with your counterclaim for a moment.
Okay.
And it will take only a moment.
Okay.
Your sister moved in with you, and your counterclaim is that your mother should pay for the 3 months that your sister lived with you.
She offered to help pay out and never paid a dime to help.
Your Honor.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Well, if you did not have what I consider a real contract with your mother, your sister she certainly is under no obligation to pay anything for your sister who had turned 18. So you want to tell me what financial contract you allege with your mother with regard to your sister's support?
Not anything in writing, just verbally that she said she'd help out whenever she could and
Helping out whenever she could is not a contract.
Yeah.
Because she can't. Because she's going to tell you that she can't. All right, so your counterclaim is dismissed, and on your claim you have $134.77. Okay. Listen, I don't know what caused all of this animus all of a sudden, because it sounds to me as if, despite its dysfunctional nature, the family had been working reasonably well.
I love both my daughters dearly, Your Honor.
Well,
Your Honor, may I say something?
Who are you?
I talked to
how are you related to these people?
He lives with me, Your Honor. And he spoke with John about the money owed.
I'm the other person that was on the account. It was my money also.
Just a second. Are you related to any of these people in any way?
No, Your Honor.
Then I don't want to hear from you.
They tried to say it was his.
Love your show, by the way.
Good. I love your silence.
Your Honor.
Listen to me. Shouldn't say anything else that is going to make any situation worse.
Your Honor, I had no intention of doing that. I would like to tell you that the babysitting thing was, Dana did want to go out and get a job. They told her, no, please, we will pay you for babysitting. That was how that all came about.
Ms. Polk, let me tell you something.
I understand.
If an 18-year-old moves in with a sister and her husband, and there isn't a lot of money floating around, it seems anywhere there's not a lot of money floating around, and it does cost money to have another human being in your house.
Yes.
I am positive that they extended themselves in certain ways financially.
That's probably
in order
true.
to have your daughter, her sister, living with them. Whether it's for a pair of shoes or a pair of sneakers or something for graduation or an outfit or $5 to go to the movies or whatever. There shouldn't have been an issue. There shouldn't even have been an issue with regard to this suit by your daughter. That's all. So let's not say any more. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $134.77. That's all.
Thank you,
Parties
Your
are
Honor.
excused. You may step out.
They just don't understand that family is family.
I'm really sorry it had to come to this.
Basically, they've run out of people to borrow money from because they burnt all their bridges, and that's what this is really about.
I don't understand why it happened.
I called him up, asked him if he wanted to handle it like a man and make payments, and he said, no, take me to court.
This is case number 117 on the calendar in the matter of Ross versus Joseph. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
All right, Ms. Ross, you claim that the defendant, who was an ex-boyfriend of yours, owes you for a whole bunch of stuff.
Correct.
Some of it dates back to 1999. That's a motorcycle that you purchased. It was his motorcycle he was supposed to make payments on. We're going to leave that for a moment.
All right.
When did you and the defendant break up? Give me the date when you no longer were seeing each other as boyfriend and girlfriend.
Probably December of last year.
Now, according to your complaint, the major loan that you made to him, discounting the motorcycle, was when his father died. When was that?
August of last year.
So what was your involvement with him in August of last year?
Well, his family came to me, and I was close with his family.
But you weren't with him?
No, we were still together.
You were still together. While you were still together, as a couple, his father died.
Correct.
And his family came to you and said what?
Well, basically, Alex came to me, and based on their families getting together, they were a little short on money on paying for funeral expenses.
What did he say?
He said he needs to borrow some money. They were expecting to get some money from the father's account, but it hadn't come in. And as soon as it came in, he would give me the money back.
How much did you give him?
$1,500.
Is that correct, Mr. Joseph?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
Did you give her back the money?
No, she never asked for it back, Your Honor.
Well, she's here. She's asking for it.
She had just told me not to worry about it. The family was in a tough spot. I did not come to her. She offered it to me.
Well, tell me your version of how that came about.
My father had died. We were $1,500 short of the funeral expenses.
Who's we?
My family.
Give me the members of your family that were short.
Myself. I mean, my aunt. It's not. He's not married or anything. My dad wasn't married. It was more about just my loan, I guess, not my family's.
Your what? Repeat that again. Your loan.
Well, okay, if you want to put it that way.
No, you just put it that way, sir. You just said it was my loan.
She came to me with the offer.
Isn't that what you just said to me? It was my loan to pay for my father's funeral.
That is what I just said to you.
Right. Now, did your father have an estate that was ultimately settled?
No.
Everybody dies with some money in the bank, sir. What happened to the money that he had that was in the bank?
He had $5,000 in the bank.
Right. What happened to that $5,000? Look at me.
It went towards the funeral expenses, Your Honor. It was $7,500 total.
$7,500 total, and he had $5,000 in the bank, and I'm sure you're fudging it just a little bit. So how much did you pay?
I paid $1,000, and Miss Ross paid $1,500.
How many children are there?
Myself, and I have a stepsister and a stepbrother.
What about them? Didn't they like him?
I was surprised they were at the funeral.
But they were there.
Yeah.
Well, as between his biological children and the plaintiff, who do you think ought to pay to bury him?
Oh, I definitely think that the biological children should.
Right! Now, in 1999, according to you, he wanted a motorcycle. You lent him money. How much was the motorcycle?
The total ended up being around $12,000.
How much did he pay you back?
He's probably made about $2,000, $3,000, somewhere in between there. I have a running tab. In addition to the motorcycle, there was other things that he said, oh, just tack it on to my payment. Just tack it on, just tack it on.
That's your problem. If you're going to be stupid and just keep tacking it on, a lot of it's your problem. Like the jacket that you bought for him for $400 so he could ride the motorcycle in 1999. Forget it. 3 years later, you don't come into court and waste my time with, I bought him a leather jacket so he would look handsome at driving his motorcycle. And he only paid you since 1999 about $2,000 or $3,000, according to you.
Correct.
And then there came a time when you took the motorcycle back.
Just about a month ago.
Tell me about that.
Well, he stopped paying since December of last year.
Why?
I never said I stopped paying.
Did you make a payment last month?
Before she took the motorcycle, yes.
You did?
Yes.
How much?
$300.
So is what you're telling me that you've made all the payments on the motorcycle?
Yes.
Really? How much a month? $300 a month?
Actually, it was $208 originally, and we added $100 for the other monies that were owed to her.
What other monies?
From the jacket. I added $100 for 4 months for the price of the jacket, which she's claiming I still owe her for.
So is what you're telling me, sir, that irrespective of the fact that you made all your payments, she took the motorcycle back?
She's actually taken the motorcycle twice, and my side of the story basically is, we were together. I decided I did not want to continue the relationship. When I didn't want to continue the relationship anymore, apparently she was hurt by it or what have you, wanted some sort of vengeance or whatever, and she decided to hit me where it hurts, because anybody that knows me knows that I love nothing like I love that motorcycle.
Mr. Joseph, you have not answered my question.
Okay, I apologize.
My question is, sir, is it your testimony that you have paid her each and every month since 1999 $208 and then $308 for the last almost 3 years?
Each month the bike was in my possession, Your Honor, yes. When she took it, I obviously did not pay for it.
Now, you say she took the bike twice, once last month, and for how long did she have the bike before that?
Maybe 4 months, 5 months. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
And why did she take the bike at that point, sir?
Because I decided to discontinue our relations.
Then why did she give it back?
Probably in hopes to somehow woo me back into the relationship. I don't know how to word it, to be honest. I mean...
That's a fair statement. That's a fair statement. Do you have proof, sir, of the monies that you paid her towards the bike?
No, I do not.
Okay. Now, she has the bike. Have you put an ad in the paper to sell it?
Yes, and I have not. I've had to reduce the price 3 times, and I have not had anyone come to see it, because he changed it and altered the motorcycle, and when I took it back, all I got was the motorcycle without all of its original parts, without everything.
So you have no idea how much you're going to get for
I'll
it?
maybe get $3,000 for it, if that.
Well, you don't know that.
No, I don't. I haven't got a single call on it.
I don't have any evidence, but I know I looked in the cycle trader. It's probably around $4,500 is what she would get for it. Now, if I had it my way, I would continue to pay for the motorcycle because it's very important to me. It's something that I've spent over 100 hours in the garage working on it, putting on these aftermarket parts. And it's all about she's been hurt by me.
Well, are you
so she's
prepared
gonna
to
hit me
say
where
as
it hurts.
follows, sir, that if you can present proof of continued insurance and that you make regular payments in the amount of $300 a month?
I will not give him the bike back.
You won't?
No.
Because it's not about the money. It's about
No.
me not having the motorcycle.
He's completely disrespected me and told me, made threats, and it's beyond that now.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
I told her, unchain the dog, tell him to come home, he'll come home.
He says, just open the door, let him out, tell him Poppy's home, and he'll come home by himself.
Is that stupid?
No.
Is there something wrong with you?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stacy Ross says ex-boyfriend Alex Joseph owes for a motorcycle and for a loan to bury his father.
Go ahead. I gave him many opportunities to took the bike away. Actually, he parked the bike in my garage because he couldn't afford it. And he said, do me a favor, I'm having some rough times. Keep the bike for me. I'll get my feet back on the ground. I'll give you money and we'll start back up. For 5 months, he did that. I made his payments for him, paid the insurance because he let it slip. And then I gave him the bike back, which I should never have done, but I trusted him. I thought he had good intentions. But then it came to a point where he said, you know what, you don't need the money, you're rich. And just, it went on from there. And at that point, that's it.
So what I suggest you do is sell it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're free to refile your claim once you've sold the bike. Make sure you have your figures correct, exactly how much he's paid you, what you got for the bike, the difference in the loan that you are still paying for, and that's what your damages are. Do you understand?
Yes.
In the meantime, he owes you $1,500 for his father's funeral. The $1,500 is a legitimate, I believe, loan. He slipped and used the word loan. That he has to pay back to you. And as soon as you get
Well, he
me-
also slipped and said that he owed me for the motorcycle jacket, too. So
Well, but he paid for some of it.
No, he
I
hasn't
paid 4
for it.
payments of $308 rather than $208 to make up for the $400 that she claims the
In
jacket
any
cost.
event, Miss Ross, pay attention. 3 years ago, you bought him a jacket. After he hadn't paid you for the jacket, you still lent him money for his
He wasn't
father's
paying
funeral.
for the jacket. He would never pay me back for one item and say, here, this is for that.
Then you got to be smart.
That's why I took the bike back.
Fine. Then you have it. Now sell it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
I would like to be able to speak, Your Honor. What, do I not get to defend
Why is
myself?
that excused? You may step out.
Cool. So all the green highlighted things that you see are my voicemail being filled up by the plaintiff.
Intentions mean nothing. It's actions that actually speak louder than words.
That's 100 phone calls in an hour and 4 minutes.
The only times I called is to demand my money.
There's a little bit of a problem going on here mentally.
Don't trust men and don't buy them motorcycles or anything else.
Don't get married and don't give her your phone number.
40-year-old courier Suzanne Hoffman.
What is your first name?
Eric.
How old are you, Eric?
15.
Unless I need Eric as a witness, I'm going to ask Eric to step outside. Can you do that for me, Eric? When I need you, I'll call you.
Okay.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Your Honor, I think it's really important that you do speak with Eric. We are here because he couldn't let go of this stuff that it was at his dad's house.
Listen to me. It's never a good idea to put a child in the middle of a controversy.
I understand.
Ever.
I understand that.
I don't care what it's about.
I understand.
The child has 2 parents. It's not his fault that the 2 parents aren't together anymore. So you keep a child out of court at all costs. Unless there's some issue of abuse, you don't bring a child into a system. You and the defendant have 1 child, I assume, together?
No, we have 2.
How old is the other child?
11.
Lives with you?
Yes.
There was a time that Eric lived with his father.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did Eric live with you?
He lived with me last year for a school year.
Okay. And that was because you were having some trouble with him, Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes.
Are you having some difficulty? Is Eric in special classes?
No, Eric's not. He wanted to live with his father since his dad left. He's made life
difficult.
Very.
Whatever it was, he wanted to live with him, so he went to live with his father for the year. And then for the summer, he was coming home, and at the end of the summer, you sent him back to his father. And this case involves the fact that you claim that his father refused to take him back after the summer. He not only refused to take him, he was not there at the airport when Eric arrived at the airport. He had to scurry around. You had to get a plane ticket for waiting for him to come back. What are you shaking your head no for? This is what your case is about.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yes.
That's what this case is about. You want to be reimbursed for the extra travel expenses because his father wasn't there, for the cost of parking your car at the parking lot.
That was a secondary reason.
Well, that's what this is for. And the return of Eric's personal property.
The personal property was the thing that Eric couldn't let go of.
Fine, so you're not seeking any travel expenses or
That's
anything?
fine. It would be nice to have the money that I didn't spend back again. But this was because Dad didn't send his things back like he asked. The last time Eric saw Dad, he hugged him and said, "I'll see you in 3 months, son."
So you're not interested in that. You just want what you say is Eric's property.
I want Eric to have some closure, yes.
Okay. Mr. Smoljan, I assume from reading your answer that after the summer, you, and is this your wife?
Fiance.
Your fiance. You live together?
Yes, we do.
Decided that Eric was too much to handle.
Yes.
And you decided that he should not come back.
Yes.
When did you communicate that to the plaintiff?
Well, 2 weeks prior to Eric going to Portland, where I wasn't there to get him because I was up hunting, I got a phone call stating that they were at an airport. They were going to send Eric. So I called the airlines and said, "Do not send Eric, that physically I can't take care of him anymore because I have seizures." And so they didn't let him on the airplane.
This was 2 weeks before.
Yes.
May I interrupt?
I stopped the airline at that time.
Fine. And then 2 weeks later, he got on a plane.
Right, with no knowledge at all. If I did, I would have been there. So
When you let Eric leave your house to go to his mother's for the summer, I assume he left some stuff there.
yes, he did in our garage. No.
That's the stuff that Eric wants.
Yes.
Tell me what it is.
Well, I brought a bag that was Eric's, and there was some clothing. We sent him a Pokemon game, and I think that was in it too.
In where?
In the paperwork that's stating that that's what he was suing for.
Right.
We sent that back because he said he lost it on the airplane. Well, we did have it at the house. We did send that to him. So basically, it's the clothes, the bag, what was in the garage.
Let me see what his mother says was left.
The travel
Remember,
expenses.
let's go through
This
it.
is a list he made himself.
Okay.
And he
Can't
put
always rely.
the articulate. He's very smart
Clothing.
kid.
So you have some clothing.
Yes, Your Honor, I do.
Okay. What about throw over blanket?
I
he's
don't
talking
have
about?
the blanket.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what he's talking
It's
about?
a Pokemon blanket, I think.
And you don't have it?
No, I don't have it on me today, Your Honor.
No, that's not what I asked you, whether you have it with you today. I asked you if you have it at the house.
I don't have it because it was in a garage, and when I did look, this was all that was there.
He has here amount of money owed, $62. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means?
Yeah, he also got birthday money, and he said that they borrowed it for some cigarettes and other things.
Did he have any birthday money that he got while he was in your care?
Yes, he did, Your Honor. What we did is, to give Eric the money back, we took him to shows, we took him places, and that's the way we gave his money back to him at the time.
You went together as a family?
Yes, family.
All right. You have to give him back that $62. When you take a child to a movie or to a game or to
That's
bowling,
enough.
you pay for it.
Okay.
What about a wrapped collector promo Pokemon card?
I have no idea on Pokemon cards.
A Game Boy Color unit?
That was the one that I think we did send back. My witness here, my fiance, if she could stand up, she knows quite a bit about this too.
Well, stand up and tell me where the Game Boy is.
Okay, the Game Boy was an instance in the evening. I was away in California. I got a call.
Where is it?
It should be in the garbage, ma'am. It was broke because Eric refused to put it away when he was told to.
And what happened to
his
it?
father took it out of his hands, and it slipped out of his father's hands and went onto the floor. At that time, the screen was broke on it.
Okay, so it's not that you don't have it, it's that you broke it, sir.
Yes,
See,
sir.
look how smart she is. You're terrific. All right, so you're home for a Game Boy. Sega game system and 5 titles. Do you know about a Sega system?
Sega System came up with him from California, but it's nowhere around us. I have no clue. We bought him a Nintendo 64 because the Sega wasn't adequate enough for him. From October until June, I have no clue what he did with his game, ma'am.
Where is the Nintendo 64?
He took it home with him
He
to his
did?
mother's, yes.
You have the Nintendo 64?
The only Nintendo 64 that's at our house was the one that had been there.
You have a Nintendo
Yeah,
64?
we have
Good.
one.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She didn't send everything back when she sent him home if there was no intent
listen
for
to
him to
me.
be back.
Stop with the nonsense. This is nonsense here, madam.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Suzanne Hoffman says ex-husband Nick Smoljan owes for travel expenses because he didn't show up at the airport to pick up their son. Suzanne also says Nick refuses to return their son's belongings.
Personal journal? Did you find the journal?
No. We cleaned out his room thoroughly. There was just a bunch of garbage left in
What
it.
about family photos?
I have seen family photos that he had. I don't.
Do you know where those are?
No, ma'am, I don't. If I did, I would definitely give them to
Of course you would. Could you take another look for them?
I certainly will.
Okay. What about a bicycle?
We bought him a used bicycle. He never rode it because he didn't want to fix it up. It wasn't good enough for him because it didn't come from a brand new store. And he was very upset. He's a very material young man.
I disagree with that completely.
About what?
Him being totally materialistic.
All right. Well,
he's
I have,
always
do you
been
have a picture?
satisfied with what he's had.
Do you have a receipt for the bike?
No, ma'am. We
Do you
paid
know where it is?
$25 cash at a yard sale for it.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, it's
Probably. Do you want to
been
pay
out
to
in
have it
the
shipped?
rain.
Do you want to
No,
pay
no,
to
I
have it
don't want
shipped?
to
Of course
pay to have
not.
it shipped.
Well, sorry. What about a microscope? Do you have a microscope?
No, ma'am. He got one for Christmas, but I have no idea where that is at this time. I could look through the stuff in the garage that we couldn't bring. I mean, we just brought what we could on the plane, which is a special backpack that his mother did send him up with. She sent him with 2 duffel bags and some clothing.
And that's why I'm wondering why she didn't send everything back when she sent him home if there was no intent
listen
for
to
him
me.
to be back.
Stop with the nonsense. This is nonsense here, madam.
Okay, okay.
Miss Hoffman.
I'm sorry.
It's
But Judy,
nonsense.
I'm
She's
not-
gonna. She has his backpack. Certainly, I don't believe that the child has to pay for his own entertainment from his birthday money when you go as a family. So that goes back to you. When you broke his Game Boy, which he values at $80. What else?
I really think you need to speak with Eric. Please. The only reason I'm here is because Eric wouldn't let go of this stuff. I didn't want to file his papers. He couldn't let go of the things. And his dad leaving him at the airport in Portland. He talked to his dad the Friday before he took the plane. I have a witness here that sat there while he made that phone call. The last time I spoke with Nick when I was at the airport, I was paged, and they changed the flight to 2 weeks later.
Miss Hoffman, you said that your son spoke to his father Friday before he was going to leave.
Right.
Yes.
Shh, just a second. Did you speak to and said to you, Dad will be there at the airport, I assume?
I talked to him 2 weeks prior to that.
2 weeks prior to that was when you were going to send him before, and he told you not to send him. After that, did you confirm with him that he would be there to pick him up 2 weeks hence? Did you confirm that with him? Yes or no?
No, not me personally, because...
Just a sec. Well, I'm talking about you personally.
No, I did not speak to Nick personally. After that.
So your son did?
Yes.
That was a mistake?
I guess so.
Well, that was a mistake.
May I address that?
Just a second. You're making arrangements for a child who is clearly a troubled child, just quiet and listen. Been around the block a long time, and I've seen a lot of kids.
I understand. You
Okay.
have been.
Good. So
And I was-
if you're making arrangements for that kind of a child to be transferred and traveling alone, you don't rely on the 15-year-old who vacillates between who he wants to live with to just listen to me.
Yes,
You don't rely on that child to make the travel arrangements with his father. You get on the phone with his father or the fiancé with whom he lives and make clear arrangements when he's coming, what time the plane is going to arrive, what time he's going to be there. You didn't do that.
I did that.
No.
I didn't do that 2 days before the flight. I did that 2 weeks before the flight, but I did that. Eric's really a very smart kid.
Miss Hoffman, one cannot assume that a father who agreed to take custody for a year of his child, hadn't lived with him, and was clearly giving you, who were the custodial parent, a lot of trouble, and then desert him purposefully at the airport. I cannot fathom what kind of human being would do that.
Well, neither can
Unless what was happening was you really wanted to send him back to his father, and his father said, no, I'm not taking him back, which is what he says. I can't do it. I have seizures, and it's causing me problems. It caused me problems with her.
Could you listen to my witness? She heard Eric's side of the conversation when he spoke to his father Saturday.
He didn't speak with his father. He spoke with me.
I spoke with you.
Yes, ma'am. And
That
it
is not
was
true.
in
That is
August.
not
Eric
true.
called and said
Please.
that his mother was putting him on the plane and that he did not want to come. He was
Please.
scheduled to fly out
That is a
on
lie.
August 11th of 2001. I
Please,
called the
Jen.
airline at that moment in time, and it was either United or Delta. I don't recall.
Please.
And informed them that Eric was being sent with no one that was physically and medically capable of taking care of this child. At this point, she did not send Eric to us. She waited until 2 weeks afterwards. Then we were notified. We weren't even home. We were away elk hunting. We bow hunt. Okay? We were away. I got a page on my pager. I went down. It took me 20 minutes to go to the nearest local store. They informed me that someone other than Suzanne, I don't know the name of the lady, had called and said that Eric was at Portland Airport at that moment. From my front door, it is a 2.5 hour drive, and that is not leaving for traffic. That is no snow over the pass. That is basically point A to point B, going the speed limit with no distractions.
Okay. Bird.
Yes, Judge.
The court is going to draft an order. The backpack will be turned over to Eric, and another $62 for his birthday money and $80 for his Game Boy. That's $142. That will be a judgment. And I'm going to ask all of you to sit down, and I'm going to see Eric in the back, please, alone.
Please.
Okay?
Suzanne Hoffman says ex-husband Nick Smoljan didn't show up at the airport to pick up their son. She is suing for travel expenses and for the return of the boy's personal property.
All right, would you step up, please? I will briefly tell you what I told Eric. I said that just because people are parents don't make them perfect, and that I believe that the fact that you weren't there at the airport to pick him up was a case of real miscommunication among everybody. And if, Ms. Hoffman, you don't buy into that, that's your problem.
I know.
Why don't you be quiet and listen? If you don't buy into that, that's your problem. But if you want to do anything to protect your son and make sure that he feels as if both his parents care for him, then that's the story that you'll either start to believe or you will start to project. Because the fact that you have let him buy into the sense that he was totally rejected by his father by leaving him abandoned at the airport doesn't make him feel any better. It may make you feel better.
No, it doesn't make me feel better.
Why don't you just listen? You are not receiving. I don't care what the truth of the matter is. What I'm telling you is any child that is made to feel that they were abandoned doesn't make them feel good. Now, I have said to Eric, I don't believe, after hearing his father, that there was a purposefulness on his part of leaving him stranded. And I hope he believes me. And if you do anything to dissuade him from that belief, you are not being a good mother. Period. End of discussion. And I don't care what the truth of it is. I don't care. It's my sense. And that's what I told him. I also told him that you, Lynn, because he seems to like you.
I love him very much.
He seems to like you very much.
She's
You
very
are
nice.
going to do your best to look through the garage, which he acknowledged has a lot of people's things in it, and look for some things that have sentimental value to him. The pictures that he talked about, and whatever other memorabilia that you see there that looks as if it belongs to him. It will go a long way because circumstances change. This year, Mom's the gardenias. Next year, it could be Dad the gardenia. So we want to keep all these lines of communication open. So I want you to do me this favor and go through everything.
Yes, ma'am, I certainly will.
And anything that you find there that's not mentioned in this order,
I will get you.
You'll put it in a box and mail to him directly. The backpack, he was pleased to hear that you brought. I told him that you were going to reimburse him for the $62 of his birthday money and for the Game Boy that he says you smashed. So that's $80.
And we also purchased.
So that is a judgment on Eric's behalf. For $142, the backpack will be transferred today. Also, he has some clothes. Yes.
Yes. Eric is very emotionally challenged, and all of his records are still up at Tillamook Family Counseling. So I don't know if she's sought emotional counseling, but he was in the school counseling every single day. I have documentation of this. He was at 42 different counseling appointments for him, individual, plus 11 different ones in our home. And he really, my stressor and my whole point for being here today is that Eric needs help to be a wonderful, well-rounded individual. He's very, very smart. He has a lot to offer our world. But if his emotional issues are not met, I fear for both Eric and our world.
May I suggest that you photocopy all the records that you have?
I have them for her.
Give her a copy. Do you have them today?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. Make sure she gets it today. What she does with them is totally up to her. She has primary physical custody of this child at this point, so she should be able to take care of. What are you crying about?
Because I'm not as articulate as I should be, and I'm sorry. I have taken Eric to counseling. We have been doing all the things that we're supposed to do.
Fine, then what's the problem? She's giving you the records.
The problem is,
she's
this
giving you the
man comes in
records.
here, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to put him to say anything against him. I don't.
So then don't. So then don't.
Okay.
Then don't. I said to you there was a miscommunication. There was a miscommunication.
I don't believe that.
Well, that's your problem, Ms. Hoffman. Get over it.
Told me that.
Get over it. Get over it. And if you're taking Eric to counseling, that's wonderful. And she's going to give you a copy of the records that she has for the year.
That's good.
You should be able to give them to your counselor. So I don't know what your problem is.
I'm sure the counselors already have been in touch with each other from California to Oregon because I released all so they could go back and forth with the information when he moved
All
up
she's
there.
doing is giving a copy of your record. She's trying to be complete.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'm better at this. Judge, this is case number 31 on the calendar in the matter of Heath versus Marple. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
You've had a lot of years of practice. Yeah. Miss Heath, it is your claim that the defendant at some sort of a water party sexually assaulted you while you were riding with him on one of those watercrafts called a Sea-Doo.
Yes, Your Honor.
When do you allege this happened?
It was August 19th, about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Tell me about the party.
It was a going-away party for one of my husband's coworkers.
It was a going-away party. What kind of a party was it?
A beach party barbecue.
Was it on a lake?
It was on the river, the Colorado River, by the casinos of Laughlin.
Did you know the defendant before the party?
Vaguely. I met him one time outside my garage. And then another
And he's a
time.
co-worker of your husband's?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long have they been working together?
Approximately 4 months prior to this.
And what time did you arrive at the party?
About 3:30.
And tell me, what precipitated your going for a ride with the defendant on this Sea-Doo?
Well, he offered to take me for a ride, and I asked my husband. He said it was fine.
Well, he offered, but he must have known that you wanted to go for a ride.
Well, later I found out that my husband had asked him to take me for a ride, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, about what time was that?
That was approximately 4:30, 5 o'clock.
And you said okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So you both got on the Sea-Doo. Who was in the front?
He was driving, I was the passenger.
Okay. Where did you go?
Well, I expected to go just, down a ways and turn around and come back. And he kept attempting to pull off to the side, and just short the Sea-Doo. And he finally did, approximately 3 miles later, under the Laughlin Bullhead Sid Bridge. And then he shorted, and I thought he was doing, what we do when we have people on our boat, just letting the passenger cool off. And then he began speaking highly of my husband, that he's a great teacher. He's learned a lot from him, that he was an awesome man and really a good friend to him. And then I said, we've been gone a long time. I think it's time that we go back. And he said, oh, no, but don't you want to drive back? And I said, no, I don't, because I have very sore area here, and I didn't want the handlebars in front of me, Your Honor. And he insisted.
When you say he insisted, he said, no, why don't you drive?
No, he said, I want you to drive back. Why don't you just get on there and drive back? And I said, fine, I'm driving back, let's go.
Okay.
And so we got just a little ways under the bridge. Before we took off, he put his hands on my thighs, Your Honor, here, instead of around my vest. And I thought that maybe that's just the way he wanted to hold on. But before we got under the bridge, he pulled his hands up higher into my bathing suit. And I turned to him and I said, what the F are you doing? And he had dead eyes, Your Honor. He didn't hear me. He wasn't there. And so I hit the wake of the ferry and I threw him in the water. But the Sea-Doo wouldn't go because he had the plug on his vest. And then he got back on the Sea-Doo and he got it started again. And just a few minutes later, he put his hands back inside me. And here's my bathing suit. And he, with his right hand, he forced himself inside me. And the harder we hit the bumps, the harder I was driving. He kept pushing himself under my butt. And I kept continuing to scream at him, what the hell are you doing? Knock that off. And then he fell over my back. I looked up ahead and I saw a man standing on the dock. And I thought it was my husband. But it wasn't, Your Honor. It was the supervisor. And he helped me. And as soon as he put his hands on me, I just got out of the water. And I turned around and I looked at my husband and the man that was leaving. It was a go-away party. And they were having such a good time that I just crawled inside myself. And I just swam in the river.
When, for the first time, did you report this incident?
I reported it to my husband Saturday night on the way going home.
Did you contact the police?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
On the 23rd.
Why did you wait 3 days?
Here's a police report.
Why did you wait 3 days?
I don't know, ma'am.
How long did you stay at the party after you got off the Sea-Doo?
Approximately 2.5 hours.
Why did you stay at the party 2.5 hours?
Because my husband was having such a good time. I didn't want to ruin his good time. I'd also like to offer to the court detective statement.
I'd like to see that too.
And my therapist's statement and my chiropractor's statement for the damage to my neck.
The police department took your bathing suit. Did they return it to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did they perform any tests on it?
Yes, Your Honor. They said it was inconclusive because of being in the river and the swimming pool. I have it right here, Your Honor.
I'd have to see it. This report says that you didn't tell your husband on the way home. This report says that you told your mother when you got home and eventually told your husband.
No, that's wrong, Your Honor. I did tell my husband, and then when he went to bed, I went in and woke up my mother, and I told my mother, and I showed her the marks and the bruises that he left on me.
Were there marks and bruises on you?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were the marks?
My genital area.
Would you step up, please? Tell me your last name. Miss Rose, do you live with your daughter and son-in-law?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember that evening of the 19th of August?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell me what you recall of the conversation you had with your daughter?
After she told me what happened, I asked her, let's go in and let me look. I can only look and tell you what I think.
What do you mean you only could tell her what you think?
You know, how it looked and everything, because I'm not a doctor. And
Did she complain of any discomfort?
yes, she did.
What did she say to you about the discomfort?
That it was burning and it was bleeding all around.
All around?
Yes.
So what did you do?
About 6 inches from her hip down, it looked like somebody had ground up meat. All red and dark and black.
Did you see any marks in her vaginal area?
Yes. It was red. It was definitely red. The whole thing was red.
Okay. Have a seat.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andy Heath says she was sexually assaulted by her husband's former co-worker, S. Lyle Marple. Andy says the attack occurred while S. Lyle was giving her a ride on his jet ski.
All right, Mr. Marple, tell me about the ride that you and Miss Heath took.
Well, the party started like at 3 o'clock. About 3:10, we went down to the pool area, and I started getting stuff out for the party. And then a few minutes later, her husband's yelling for me to give her a ride because she's down on the dock and she won't leave the dock until somebody gives her a ride on the Sea-Doo. So I went up and got the jackets, went down, gave her one. We put them on. We got on the Sea-Doo. When she first got on, she grabbed a hold of my shoulders. Then she grabbed my waist. Then we took off up the river. Then her hands were down on my thighs. First, she just wanted to ride. Then when she got on it, she wanted to drive it. So I pulled into the beach. She got off. She jumped in the water, cooled down, and we sat and she talked for a while, talking about her husband and stuff. And then she wanted to ride the jet ski, so I let her ride. She got on. I got on behind her, and she took off wide open. I told her to keep it slow, you know. And then she just zigzagged down through the water.
At some point, did you fall off?
No.
At no point you fell off the Sea-Doo?
No. As we were going down, she hit a big wave, and we jumped up in the air, which made the Sea-Doo unplug, and we came back down on the Sea-Doo.
But you remained on it?
Oh, yeah. If I would have fell off, it's hard to get back on.
You say he fell off?
Yes, Your Honor.
How did he get back on?
Very easily. He just crawled up on the back of it and got on the seat, plugged it in, started it up.
All right. Got back to the party, and the plaintiff stayed at the party for a period of about 2.5 hours.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that right?
Yes. We pulled in, and that's when I helped her guide it back up to the dock because I didn't want her to run into the dock and hit the kill switch so we could get off.
There was another young woman who you also gave a ride to on your Sea-Doo.
Yes. Wanted to ride.
How old is she?
13.
Did she take control of the Sea-Doo at any time?
Yes.
She wanted to drive also.
That's what everybody wants to do. Everybody wants to ride on it, then they want to drive it.
When you gave it your ride, were your hands on her thighs or around her waist?
They were right below the vest, which would have been right above her thighs, and on front of her, on her legs.
On her
Because when they
legs.
take off, you got to grab on because there's nothing to hold on to. There's no straps there to hold on to, and everything's wet. When you take off fast.
We live along, excuse me.
I didn't ask you
Oh,
anything.
I'm sorry.
Were you a witness to any of this?
Yes, I was.
Oh, then I'll hear you. Step up. Tell me your last name.
Harold Tobin.
Do you work with these gentlemen?
I worked with him formerly, and then he moved on, and so we became friends.
So
And he
what-
invited me to a party.
So tell me what you witnessed.
Well, I was going to comment on Sea-Doos. We live on the river. To grab underneath the jacket to help hold on, or there's straps across the jacket for a vest is another hold-on point. So that's a common place to hold on.
So you hold
But,
on to the vest.
Right. You grab your hands
Listen to
underneath
just
the
listen to me.
vest.
You hold on to the vest,
Yes.
not to somebody's thighs,
But understand, yes, I agree.
right? Thank you. Sit down. I live on a lake too. I see Sea-Doos all the time. You ever been on a Sea-Doo?
No, ma'am.
Me neither. Ever seen them?
I've seen them.
Ever had a desire to go on one?
Negative.
Me neither. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Marple. Would it surprise you if I told you that this 13-year-old girl that you gave a ride to had a measure of discomfort at the way you were holding her during the time that she was riding the Sea-Doo when she was driving it?
Probably at first, because when you take off, everybody about falls off.
I'm not talking about that kind of discomfort. I'm talking about the kind of discomfort that comes from the way you were holding on to her on her thighs instead of holding on to the jacket.
No. You hold up high, they're controlling you, pushing back and forth. You hold down here, you're more stable.
He does.
Shh.
He does. He grabs the jacket or under the jacket. Life jackets come waist high. So you either grab underneath or you grab around if somebody is thin enough. But I never heard of grabbing hold of somebody's thighs to hold on.
If a life
or
jacket's
legs
on,
or upper thighs, because that's what you call the area where you say put at your waist, but you put it at your waist, your fingers are extended, that could slip a little bit. That slips a little bit in a place where it's not supposed to be. Mr. Marple, did you take a polygraph test?
yes.
Did you get the results of the polygraph test?
No, they didn't give me any of it. They didn't give me any tapes, and they didn't give me all the polygraph tests.
Did you ever tell anybody that you passed the polygraph test?
Yes.
Were you ever told that you passed the polygraph test?
No, I just figured I'd pass the polygraph test.
According to the Bullhead City Police Department, the results of the test shows that you were deceptive in your responses, which would mean inconclusive. Did you take one?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
It's against medical orders.
Against whose medical orders?
My therapist.
Why would your therapist tell you not to take a polygraph test?
I volunteered, Your Honor.
So I don't understand why you didn't take one.
Because my doctor told me that it was against my best interest because I was heavily sedated and having a hard time dealing with this.
Can you think of any reason whatsoever that the plaintiff would make up a story about having been sexually assaulted by you?
I believe she was miserable living in Bullhead City. She wanted to move, so she wasn't happy. She couldn't keep a job. They weren't getting along good at home.
Who told you all of these things?
Just from talking to people.
Was that before or after this incident?
This was before.
So before this incident, you knew all these things about her, that she was miserable living in Bullhead City,
Yeah.
that she was unhappy at home?
Yes.
So you think that the response to that was claiming that she had been sexually assaulted by you?
That, and she had nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Like what?
She had money, because she was going to sue. She had more drugs, because she could go to the doctor and complain. So she had the sympathy of everybody that was kind of disgusted with her, and now they were falling over backwards, feeling sorry for her about this thing that happened, which didn't happen. And
Excuse me, Your Honor, that's incorrect.
What's incorrect, Miss Heath?
That I had people crawling all over me. I can't even stand having people
Would you
around
step
me.
up, please? Mr. Heath, I want you to tell me about exactly when your wife told you about what happened on the Sea-Doo.
I was about halfway home from the party.
And what did she say?
She said that she didn't want me to be upset, but that I had hurt her while she was on the Sea-Doo. And I asked her if she could be more specific, and she pretty much didn't want to tell me about the exact extent of it. It took her about 3 months of therapy and everything before she wanted me to know the exact specifics.
So she didn't actually tell you what happened.
She told me that he had fondled her and groped her
When did she tell that to you?
that night.
That night?
I tried to urge her to go to the hospital, and she didn't want anything to do with that. She just wanted to go straight home. And I thought she was like in shock, so I tried to get her to go willingly to the hospital. And
How long have you been married?
I've been married for 10 years, been together for 12.
Steve, I want you to listen very carefully to my question, sir. Has your wife ever made an allegation of sex abuse against anyone else?
No, Your Honor.
Has she ever claimed that anyone who you worked with or any social friend made any untoward advances towards her?
No, Your Honor.
After she told you about this incident, the next day, what did you do?
I pretty much was trying to talk to her about it, and she kept crying hysterically, and she wouldn't really tell me any of the specifics of exactly, what had happened. She had me go to a visit with her psychologist, and that is when together the three of us sat down, and that's when she told me there.
When was that visit with the psychologist?
It's been a couple of months ago.
Was it shortly after the incident?
No, it's about 3 months.
After the incident.
Yes, ma'am.
Had your wife been seeing this psychologist before?
Never.
Was your wife ever in psychiatric or psychological treatment before this incident?
Never.
Was your wife taking any sort of medication, antidepressants, prior to this incident?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a statement to tell what I saw, and then my wife needs to make a statement.
Well, I would like to hear what somebody witnessed. You didn't indicate that you witnessed anything.
I witnessed a lot.
Well, let me hear what you witnessed, sir. I'm anxious to hear what you witnessed. Go ahead.
I was one of the first guests to arrive to the party. I met these people at the pool. I introduced my wife to them. I recall the incident where her husband was yelling up to Stanley about giving his wife a ride and that she went off for the ride. I remember her coming back, but I remember her being happy when the vest saying that they hit a hard wake and it unplugged and it came off. We have a videotape showing that she had a wonderful time through the whole party. She left late into the night, and I was surprised because she got in an argument with another co-worker with these gentlemen about an incident said, and I was just surprised how angry she was on that. And the guy was holding his little kid, and after they left, I was asking him what was said, and it was something just minute, but I was so shocked how angry she was. And this was
tell me
into
what
the
it
night.
was. Tell me what it was.
It was just her. Okay, what it was is that what the guy told me, he was holding his kid, that when he was bent over picking up something or something bent over, the guy said his boss sees him in that position all the time. And then she got angry about it.
So
And
somebody made a sexual innuendo at the party about her husband.
Right.
And she became angry, and in your judgment, her anger went over the top at that point.
But for just
Listen.
that, while after the ride, she was calm and laughing, and she
Okay, you
was
said you had a
sexually-
video. I look at the video. You
And-
have it?
Yes, we do.
Let me see it.
Today on Judge Judy, the plaintiff, Andy Heath, claims she was sexually assaulted by the defendant, S. Lyle Marple, while riding with him on his jet ski.
Before we took off, he put his hands on my thighs, and I thought that maybe that's just the way he wanted to hold on. But he pulled his hands up higher into my bathing suit, and he forced himself inside me.
The defendant denies the plaintiff's allegations.
She had nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Like what?
Money, because she was going to sue. More drugs, because she could go to the doctor. So she had the sympathy of everybody feeling sorry for her about this thing that happened, which didn't happen.
And his witness thinks he has the proof.
We have a videotape showing that she had a wonderful time through the whole party.
Now, the conclusion.
I want to see the video. You have it?
Yes, we do.
Let me see it.
I can explain scenes that I see.
Are there scenes of the plaintiff
Yes.
after this incident?
Yes.
All right, let me see after the
You're doing great. Oh, hi. Come on, pose a little bit.
This is good music, Ron.
Oh, you like that, huh? Yeah. Little third world. It's the most beer I've ever seen Stanley drink. How you doing, Stan? You having a good
Is this
time?
before or after the ride?
This is after the ride. As you can see Stanley, where he had his vest on, his t-shirt still wet. It's dry where the vest covers his shirt. But this is after the
Now,
ride.
is that, just a second, is that Stanley dancing around?
That's Stanley dancing around.
All right, that's Stanley dancing.
And that was the defendant.
Was that her dancing?
She's floating in and out.
I'm talking to my husband, Your Honor.
Come on, Pam, do it.
If you notice what's going in the background, Your Honor, this gentleman's wife was attempting.
You didn't do good. Yeah, you know, Pam almost pulled Stan's pants down, but she chickened out at the last minute.
Okay. Mr. Heath, it did appear that your wife was not, at least overtly, traumatized. This was after the incident.
Yes, sir.
I believe she was in shock, Your Honor.
You're not an expert.
That's true.
You are not a psychiatric expert.
That's true, Your Honor. I've been with my wife for 12 years, and I know her very well. And I know the difference of how she was feeling before and after the ride.
Well, you couldn't tell that she was feeling badly afterwards.
I could tell that the people that we normally hang out with, she totally avoided.
You couldn't tell from looking at that your wife had just suffered a traumatic event.
That's true.
Is that a fair statement?
I didn't want him to know, Your Honor.
It may be, but you have the possibility of just withdrawing at the party and sitting down, sitting, having a drink, not saying anything, but you were participating at the party.
I was flying all over the place.
You were
Your
flying
Honor.
all over the place. Had you had anything to drink before you went on the Sea-Doo?
Yes, Your Honor.
What did you have to drink?
Snow Creek wine.
What is that?
It's like a Boone's Farm. And I was in the pool so much, I just come back and put ice in it.
Okay, so how many drinks did you have?
One. And also this gentleman's wife and I went to the store to buy a bottle of Malibu rum. And I had a little bit of Malibu rum in with that, but then again, I just kept putting ice in it. I'm not a drinker, Your Honor.
Okay, what about you, sir? How much did you have to drink?
I had like a beer or two, and then later on I had a few more beers.
Did you drink anything other than beer?
No.
Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, but at the end of the party, it was strange because I've really had an enjoyable time with these people. And at the end, after it was that diffusing, she gave me a kiss, my wife a kiss, Stanley a kiss. My wife she spent 80% of the time with this lady in the pool, and it's on the tape. You see them that they're together all the time. My wife has things to say.
I'd like to
It also says in here that she needed to be on medication for the rest of her life. And
sit down.
All right, but Pam.
Yes.
I did spend most of the time at the party with Andy, and we did have a really good time. We drank quite a bit. The bottle of Malibu rum that she did bring, I had one glass, and I know that it was empty at the end of the party. And I'll admit that we were both drunk at the party. When she left, she was very drunk. Her whole demeanor throughout the party with her She didn't act like anybody that had anything happen to them. I am an RN, I work in an emergency room, and I do take care of women who are sexually assaulted or raped.
Did you see any marks or bruises on the plaintiff?
No, I never saw any marks or bruises, and also on the video, I never noted any marks or bruises on her.
Anything else you want to tell me?
Yes, one other thing, Stanley did obtain her medical records, and it does show that she has been on psychiatric drugs and sedatives for years before this incident. Also has a history of psychiatric problems. It's right there on the paperwork.
What do you take Paxil for?
I was taking Paxil because my mother had 29 surgeries in less than a year.
Well, Paxil is a psychiatric drug. You know that?
Yes,
Shh, pay attention.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you start to take Paxil?
About 3 years ago.
So your answer to me that you were not taking any medication, shh, listen to me. Your husband's answer.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're telling me that your husband didn't know that you were taking Paxil?
Yes, he did, ma'am.
I don't even know what Paxil is for.
Lorazepam, what do you take that for?
For sleeping. Not any longer.
But you did then?
Yes, ma'am.
When was your last prescription?
Approximately a year ago.
This happened on the 19th of August, 2000?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you go to the doctor on the 2nd of August?
I don't recall, Your Honor.
Did you complain to the doctor at that point that you had a rash on your back, some on your legs, and also in the vaginal area?
No, not in the vaginal area. I don't remember that. I do remember
That's what the doctor reports.
Okay, well then
Miss
that is
Heath.
possible, Your Honor.
That was on the 2nd. He increased your Paxil to 40 milligrams, is that right?
I believe so, yes, Your Honor.
You also called July 27th, indicating that you were going out of town to take care of your brother and you'll run out of your Paxil. And when they called to check at the pharmacy, they indicate that you had 4 refills for Walgreens.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you had enough.
Yes, Your Honor.
You were also taking sleeping pills before.
Yes, Your Honor.
At some point, did the doctor tell you that they wanted to wean you off these sleeping pills?
I wanted to wean out.
Doctor reported sometime prior to this that you wanted some additional medication, and the doctor explained that that would be a fraud. Explained to patient that she'll need to be seen before we can refill the lorazepam. Patient states she'll see what she can do to get in.
Yes, Your Honor.
Doctor reports that you started to take some medication due to an attempted suicide in September of 1999, owing to stress. Did you attempt suicide in 1999?
No, Your Honor. That was
Right.
September of 2000, Your Honor.
September of 1999
No, Your Honor.
is what this report indicates. You take a lot of Paxil and a lot of the other medication, according to this report.
Not anymore, Your Honor. I'm on different medication.
What kind of medication are you on?
I'm on trazodone and Effexor. Trazodone is for sleep. Effexor is for antidepressant.
But that wasn't as a result of
And
this
Xanax.
incident.
Yes, Your Honor.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andy Heath says former friend S. Lyle Marple sexually assaulted her at a party. S. Lyle says Andy is lying.
There's a lot of information here. Is there anything else that you want me to read?
My answer to her complaint.
Well, that's self-serving, sir. Your answer is self-serving.
Your Honor, may I make a
Yes.
statement? Her and I did become very good friends. We have a friend in common. She made the interest in the fact that she enjoyed drinking Malibu rum, as did I. The Malibu rum was not empty, Your Honor. I still have it in my refrigerator.
Whether
as
it
of
was
this
or whether it was not, madam, are you given specific instructions when you take Paxil with regard to any alcohol?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you allowed to have any alcohol if you are taking medication?
No, and I drink wine.
You are not supposed to have any alcohol if you are taking Paxil. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were, in fact, taking Paxil, as well as other medication, on this day.
But that is not instructed on the Paxil bottle.
Miss Heath.
It is on Effexor.
Miss Heath. One of the problems is that when I asked that specific question before, whether there was ever any indication that you had a problem before this, your husband said never a problem, you don't take any medication, there was never any psychotropic medication, nothing. And so that would lend certain credibility to your statements that as a result of this incident, you became so traumatized that you now have stress, can't sleep, you're on medication, all that goes together. But all that happened before. Your husband was not honest with me when he,
Your Honor, I
Mr.
didn't know.
Heath.
I'm not trying to be misleading.
Well, you were misleading to me. Your wife has been on heavy-duty medication for a long time. This is a very, very difficult matter for anybody to handle in a relatively short period of time. There is no medical evidence of sexual assault. So I have to listen to the 2 testimonies. And I have to find to my satisfaction, by a preponderance of the evidence, that this did in fact occur. My initial reaction from hearing your story was that maybe everybody's a little drunk and he got a little out of hand. And pay careful attention to me. Don't interrupt me. That's why you ask questions, because before you find somebody, in effect, guilty of this kind of horrific experience, you have to be really satisfied. And as a judge and as a woman, I find that this kind of experience can be, and to most women would be, very traumatic. The response to that trauma would be to say to your husband, get your bathing suit, we're leaving. And then I see a tape, Ms. Heath, of you apparently partying afterwards. I would have to have some pretty substantial psychiatric testimony from a treating therapist that would indicate to me that due to this kind of stress, you may have been suffering a post-traumatic stress even during this period of time, which so altered your mood that would permit a video to be taken of you seemingly laughing and having a good time, encouraging your husband to dance. But I don't have that. Listen to me. I don't have that expert testimony.
Yes, ma'am, you do.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
As you're not paying attention.
I'm sorry.
I don't have what your therapist says happens here because I cannot examine your therapist.
Yes, ma'am.
I do not take this as fact.
Yes,
what
ma'am.
I take as fact are your medical records that indicate that you were prescribed over a long period of time serious medication. You complained for a long period of time that as a result of stress, you couldn't sleep. You asked the doctor on more than one occasion to provide more medication than the doctor would provide because he says you already have enough. You got that prescription filled 2 days ago. I'm not going to refill it again. That's objective data from the medical records. The statement from your therapist, Ms. Heath, is self-serving, and without that therapist here, I have a difficult time making a judgment, quite frankly, viewing the tape, looking at these medical records, listening to your husband, plus the fact that you decided, whether on advice of your therapist or not to take a polygraph test, despite the fact that he took one. And his polygraph test did not vindicate him, according to the detective's report, because I don't have the polygraph here either. It didn't say you did it. It didn't say you didn't do it. It said some of your answers were deceptive. But it didn't even say that you had declined to take a polygraph test.
She didn't decline. She offered to.
She didn't take it.
Right.
Because if she had taken it, they would have said she took it.
I have something very important to address to you.
Go ahead.
This tape that they have shown was before the ride, Your Honor, not after the ride.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
After the ride, I went over to make sure that I could hold myself together. And I gave him 5. I said, give me 5 to make sure I could hold myself together. And then he was nowhere around me until I was ready to leave and he was sitting in my seat.
It was after the ride. In fact, if you look at the whole tape, there are parts in there where you can tell. At one point, he asked what time it was. It was like 6:30. You can kind of tell throughout the tape, you know, where he went and got his jet ski and took it back. And especially with him being wet. He only went out in the water. He never went in the pool once. He was only in the water twice. When she got back, we jumped in the water a couple times after that. She was having so much fun. We ran on the dock.
He walked right through the
jumped
brakes
off.
next to us.
We jumped off the dock and swam to the shore. We were having a great time.
Before the ride?
No, that was after the ride. And if she was assaulted, why would she let a little 13-year-old girl go on the boat right after
No,
her?
don't ask them a question.
May I answer that?
No.
Your Honor.
Listen to me. Accusing someone of what I consider a vicious attack is serious business.
Yes, it is.
And I have to be totally satisfied
Yes.
that this incident occurred as you indicate.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we're not talking about the money judgment that you're requesting so much,
No, ma'am.
but we're talking about making a statement publicly that this man violated you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In order for me to do that, I have to feel totally comfortable, Ms. Heath. So what is the objective evidence that I have? The objective evidence is that you were taking very serious medication for a substantial period of time before this happened, medication that should not be taken in conjunction with alcohol. You decided, for whatever reason, not to get your husband, which would have been a totally reasonable response, immediately afterwards and say, let's get out of here. We're getting out of here. I'm just talking to you about objective data. You understand? The objective data is I have a report here that indicates that you started to take medication and you've been taking medication for stress for a very long time, and in your own hand or in the hand of another professional, it does say that you did in fact attempt suicide, something that you didn't tell me. I have the defendant who probably, based upon his own statements and based upon the statements of his witness, wasn't too bright, because if he takes women on his sea-doo, what he does is he either holds on to the back of the jacket, puts his hand around his waist, and not be stupid and grab him onto their waist where you might put your hands in and around their thigh area. That isn't smart. Do you understand? Not smart. That does not necessarily make you a sexual deviant. Okay. He says he did not do this. Your mother says she observed certain bruising on your thighs. The medical records indicate that the doctor who you saw during the month of August noted redness.
But not scratches.
There is no medical evidence of scratches, madam. If you went to the doctor immediately after this incident, which you did not do, and the doctor had looked at you and saw nail scratches, nail marks, something.
Ma'am, when I went to the doctor, he's known me so long, being so strong with my mom, that he didn't even look, he didn't even check. He just walked out of the room.
That may be. But this is the objective data that I do not have, which is probably why the police department there chose not to prosecute him.
Ma'am.
There was a prosecutor that wanted to.
The state.
He kept having it postponed, and they put somebody else in there who dropped the case.
It's been postponed and withdrawn for 7 months.
What I'm telling you is, when you have this kind of an assault, especially if you have this kind of an assault, and there was some indication that there was another child, a 13-year-old, who was not a witness here today, so I don't know that, was also inappropriately touched, then the prosecutors proceed. You may be 100% truthful. I, as a judge, have to deal with objective data. And based upon what I have seen, I cannot in good conscience label this man a sexual deviant. I cannot. Only you folks and your consciences know what happened that day. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. That's the back door.
18-year-old Nikki Truslow is suing her ex-boyfriend, 21-year-old Josh Carter, and his fiancée, 20-year-old Yolanda Walker, for assaulting her with a stick. Josh and Yolanda are countersuing for harassment.
Order. All rise. Yes, it's case number 173 on the calendar in the matter of Truslow versus Walker Carter. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Ms. Truslow, the defendant, Mr. Carter,
Yes.
was a former boyfriend of yours.
Yes.
The co-defendant, Ms. Walker, is his current girlfriend. They have a child together, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Ms. Truslow, the two of them assaulted you.
Yes.
They say you started the whole problem, you precipitated the assault, and they are counterclaiming for harassment. So that's what this case is about.
Yeah.
When did this happen?
It happened on January 11th of this year. But the night before it happened, on January 10th, I had stopped by his cousin's house. At the time, I was 6 months pregnant with his daughter. And I stopped by there, and I go inside, and he walks me into the kitchen, and he's like, you know, me and Yolanda got back together because they dated in high school. And he was like, but I really don't want to be with her. I want things to work out with you. I was like, okay. And he was like, well, call me later. So I leave. How
many children do you have?
One.
With this lady?
Yeah.
You have a child?
Yes. We go Monday for the blood test.
We already took the paternity test on our half. We just
I
waiting
have
on
to
her.
go Monday. So, but here's a picture of her if you'd like to see. I don't know. But anyway, so then I leave, and he
How
was
old are
like,
you?
how old am I? I'm 18.
And how old are you?
21.
What do you do for a living?
Work.
Would you stand still? Try standing still. What kind of work do you do?
Work at Burger King.
Burger King. Go ahead.
Okay.
So he's in the kitchen and he's smooching with you.
Yeah,
You're 6 months pregnant, and
yeah.
he says, I'm back with her, but I don't want to be back with her. I really want to be back with you.
Yeah. So
Go
then he
ahead.
tells me to call him later on. He was going to a game or something, whatever. So I called him that
You ought
night.
to be
and
going
he
to his
wasn't-
second job.
Huh?
Go ahead, nothing.
Oh, so I called him that night and he wasn't there. I had a doctor's appointment at 10 o'clock the next morning. So I go by his house. I had never seen her before. I'd never met her before until
Is this
that
your
day.
first child?
This is my first child. So I go by his house and he stayed in the basement. So I go around to the basement. I was on my way taking my
What did you
friend
go to his house for?
to see if he wanted to go to the doctor with me, because he had told me to call him the night before, and because he had already went to
Why
one
didn't you
doctor's
call
appointment. I did call him, but I didn't call him that morning. I was on the way.
Why didn't you call him that morning?
I don't know. I didn't know that she was going to be there. I had no idea. I mean, the day before he was telling me, you know, that he wanted to get back with me. If she was going to be there, I wouldn't have never came. So I go by there and knock on the door, and Yolanda answers the door. And I was kind of surprised, and I was like, well, is Josh here? And so he comes to the door, And I was like, you know, what's going on? Why last night you're telling me that you want to work things out and she's here? And he was like, you know, he really didn't say too much. So me and him go into the other room. It's like a laundry room in their house, and we're in there talking. And I'm questioning him, you know, why did you say this if you really didn't want to work things out? Well, Yolanda's like, well, I heard you wanted to fight me and da-da-da. And I was like, you know what? I didn't come down here to fight you. I just came down here to talk to Josh. So me and him are in the other room talking, and his mom has like a stick that she used to hold her sliding glass door with. And Yolanda hits me in the back of the head with it, and it breaks in two. Well, I turn around to like defend myself. She's pulling my hair, hitting me with the other half of the stick, and Josh steps in between us and pushes me down on the love seat. And I'm trying, every time I try to get up, he's still pushing me down, and she's pulling my hair, hit me with the other half of the stick. And so his grandma comes downstairs, and so then they both back up. The other half of the stick had like flew kind of to the other side of the room where the door was. So I get up off the couch and I'm crying, and I was like, fine, if you wanted to fight like that, then I'm going to go get you locked up. So I grab the other half of the stick. I leave out the door, and I'm all upset.
Why'd you grab the other half of the stick for?
Because I was going to use that as evidence to show that's what she hit me with. But I was at my car with my door open, willing to leave. I was not, you know, trying to start anything else. They come outside. He walks over to my car and pushes me, jerks the stick out of my hand, and tells me to get the F on. So I go home, I tell my mom, and we go get warrants on both of them. And then I went by and saw my obstetrician to make sure that my baby was okay. They did the little heart monitor thing. She said everything was fine, and if I had any problems, any bleeding or anything, to make sure I went to the emergency room. The next morning when I woke up, I was in a lot of pain. My neck, my shoulders were really sore. I was having cramps in my stomach, I guess, from trying to get up and down off the couch. So I go to the emergency room, and I have the copy of that right here. So if you,
she didn't bring that to the first.
It's kind of faded. So, but when we went to court, they didn't question Josh.
You were arrested.
No, we weren't arrested.
Yeah, I have that right here.
There was a trial.
There was a trial, yes.
And you were acquitted.
What does that mean?
Found not guilty.
Yeah.
What about you?
Dismissed.
No. He was found not guilty. Her case was dismissed.
He was found not guilty.
Yeah, and he didn't even say anything.
Shh. Okay. And her case was dismissed when?
The same day. They tried both of them at the same time.
So they were both found not guilty?
No. They had two lawyers against my one, okay? It was really...
Stop! Of course they had two separate lawyers.
I know
you don't have your own
saying.
lawyer. You have the
I
district
understand
attorney.
that.
Fine. So both found not guilty. Either you're guilty or you're not guilty.
Yeah.
Whether you're dismissed, whatever. You're not guilty.
Okay.
Okay, fine. Now, shh.
Okay.
I don't understand one thing, madam. You said to me a moment ago when you started this discussion with me, you said that you would never have gone to the house if you knew she was there.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you said that when you went to the house that morning, instead of calling first,
Okay.
Why don't you receive instead of talking?
I'm listening.
Good. And if you saw her because she answered the door, why didn't you just leave?
I didn't know I was going to get beat up, you know?
Try answering my question. You got a hot temper. You're not helping your case.
Sorry.
You told me if you knew she was there, you never would have gone.
Yes.
She opens the door. You see she's there. Why didn't you leave?
Because I still wanted to find out what was going on.
Well, why don't you find out what was going on by picking up the phone and calling sometime later and saying, hey, Josh, what's going on?
Yeah, I could
Yeah,
have done
good. Now, tell me your version of these events.
It started off 2 days prior to the day of the fight. I had came by to drop my daughter off. I was going to my cousin's house or whatever. And Josh and her were on the phone. I guess they were arguing or whatever on the phone. But he ended up hanging the phone up on her. And when he got off the phone, he told me, he said, Nikki said she's going to F you up. And I was like, why is she saying that? I don't even know this girl. Never seen her a day before in my life. Okay, then the phone rang again.
Stop right there. Did you have a conversation with the plaintiff a couple of days before this incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you call her or did she call you?
She called me.
What did she say when she called you?
She just wanted to know what was going on.
What was going on? What do you mean, what was going on?
Me and her getting back together.
And what did you say to her?
I said, we're not getting back together.
Did she at that point say anything about Miss Walker?
Yeah, she said she was going to F her up.
Did she say why?
No, ma'am.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tabitha Truslow says ex-boyfriend Josh Carter and his fiancée, Yolanda Walker, assaulted her with a stick.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so after he told me that, the phone had rung again. And so I answered, he told me, he said, it's Nikki, tell her I don't want to talk to her, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so I answered the phone, and she goes, is Josh there? And I was like, he doesn't want to talk to you. So then I asked her, you know, why did you tell him that you're going to F me up and you don't even know nothing about me? She was like, well, as soon as my car gets back here, I'll be over there to fight you. That night, she came over there with two girls. I was not there. His mother and Josh was there, and she and two other girls that came over there to fight me.
Did you go over to his house 2 days before?
I did not.
Did your mother see her over there?
Yes, ma'am.
If I called his mother, would she say that you were over there 2 days before?
I don't know, but
Oh, she probably would.
But also, could I?
Don't say anything other than answering my questions.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened when she came over a couple of days before this incident?
She just started cussing and talking about she was gonna beat her up. Where's Yolanda at?
Go ahead.
Okay, then the next day, which was the 10th, it was on a Wednesday, I had went to go pick them up from his cousin's house. I gets there, and he comes and tells me, Nikki came out here today talking about she's going to beat you up again, and she came by the house last night, and my 3-year-old daughter at the time overheard her say that...
Don't tell me what anybody overheard.
Okay, well, Thursday comes, it's about 9 o'clock in the morning, and she knocks on the door. I go answer the door. She walks in the house, uninvited. I asked her, I said, well, why did you say the stuff about me around my daughter? That was the main point. She said, Yolanda, I didn't come down here for this, da-da-da-da-da.
No, don't do da-da-da-da-da-da-da. She didn't say da-da-da-da-da. I didn't come here for this. Go ahead.
She said she didn't come here for this, and that, she only wanted to talk to Josh or whatever. And I told her, I said, Nikki, next time, don't come over here no more. She was just like, well, I can come over here anytime I want. I said, well, don't come over here while I'm here. So then she was like, B-I-T-C-H, da-da-da-da-da, something. And then I'm sorry with the da-da-da-da. But it ended up where she was like, I'll whip your da-da-da-da, whip your butt. And then so I was like, you ain't gonna do nothing. So at this time they were at the sliding glass door. Josh was like, probably like this to her. And she was behind him and she was like, I'll whip your da-da-da-da. Shoot, I got her happy with it. And so she said, I'll whip your butt or whatever. And so I got up, I was sitting on the couch. So I said, you ain't gonna do nothing. I said, but I know you better not come over here next time. So she had grabbed the stick and she was like, what, like that? She came at me with the stick. I grabbed the stick from her. And when she had did like this, I grabbed it like this and I took it from her and I hit her with it. And then from there, we had wrestled and I ended up tossing her on the couch. I had completely dropped the stick by then. The stick was on the floor when she picked it up. And I was just hitting her in the head. Josh came in between us and grabbed me and, took my hand out of her hair or whatever. And then she ran to get the stick and then she ran out the house and the first thing we thought was, oh, my car. I thought she was going to bust the windows out of my car because she just ran out of the house with the stick in her hand.
So he ran out and got the stick?
Yeah, he ran out and got the stick from her.
Okay. Let me hear about your counterclaim.
Okay, about the counterclaim.
Make sure it's a good one unless you want to withdraw it.
She has harassed us the whole time. She calls the house. We had to get the number changed. She goes to his
Can
job.
I say something?
She goes to his job, tells him he shouldn't marry me. She talks bad about me.
He must be some bargain.
Try to get it.
He must be really a bargain. Do you have any money in a Swiss bank account? You have a Swiss bank account?
No.
That maybe they don't know about or they do know about?
She tried to get a job where I worked at too. That's why.
At Burger King?
Yes, ma'am.
And he ended up.
And I ended up quitting.
And then she didn't want the job there anymore.
So that's harassment?
Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of issues. She sent mail to the house.
You don't have a lawsuit for harassment. 2 women probably have a lawsuit for stupidity against somebody.
Could I say something, ma'am?
No, say nothing. You made a mistake. Probably you did too. Your mistake is 3 years old and your mistake is a newborn.
My daughter's
because, oh yes, because it tied you permanently to him. That means you 2 women are tied permanently to him when you were children. Children having children is stupid. Children who don't know how to behave themselves is stupid. So don't tell me you're not stupid and don't tell me these 2 children weren't mistakes. Big time. Now, you had no business going over there. I absolutely believe her that you were there before, that you had some inclination that that's where she stayed.
I didn't know.
Then you should have seen her at the door, closed the door, and left.
I just wanted to
I don't believe you. Listen to me very carefully, madam. You had no business. Say nothing. Your case is dismissed, as is your counterclaim. Next time, I want you to both, if you have any extra bucks, go to the store, buy birth control. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
No, please, just leave us alone.
She can have them and have 10 kids by them.
Please, don't get involved with people like her. Please don't.
Yeah, this is case number 257 on the calendar in the matter of Lamont versus Williford. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
Miss Lamont, according to the complaint, the defendant is your ex-boyfriend and you claim that you loaned him some money.
Yes.
The defendant says that you actually owe him money because a while ago you wrecked his car or truck. First, tell me about this truck. You were driving his truck. Under what circumstances?
I believe it was in March of 2000.
Yes.
He drove me to Sacramento to go to court there. And on our way
What?
back, I had lived in Sacramento and I received a ticket that I had to go back and pay when I had returned to LA.
Okay.
And on the way back, he asked me to drive so he could sleep. And so I drove. And on the way back, to avoid getting in an accident, I swerved off the road and hit a guardrail.
And there was damage to his car.
Yeah. And he never asked me to fix it.
That's a lie. That's a lie. Cold-hearted. She's lying, Your Honor.
Are you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished. As long as you are.
We're going to have a problem.
You take any prescribed medication, sir?
No, ma'am, I ain't on no.
Quiet. You take any prescribed medication?
No, ma'am, I ain't on no prescribed medication.
You take any other kind of medication?
No, ma'am.
Then behave yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of car was it that was in this accident?
A Ford Ranger.
What year?
99, I believe.
There came a time when you gave him some money towards having the car fixed, according to you. $1,500?
It actually, because I had wrecked the car and he had never asked me to repay him, I decided that when I got the money that I received in a settlement, that I would take it upon myself to take responsibility for the fact that I did crash his truck, and I gave him $1,500.
Okay, that's not the money that you're suing for.
No.
What money are you suing for?
At the same time that I gave him the $1,500, he also asked to borrow $2,000 because he had gotten into some trouble.
What kind of trouble? Doesn't surprise me.
You know, I don't exactly know, but...
What do you think? Tell me what you think, Miss Lamont.
He had gotten in trouble with the drug dealer.
And he needed $2,000?
Yes.
Did he tell you what would happen to him if he didn't give this drug dealer $2,000?
You know, I could only assume at that time from...
So you gave him the $2,000. That's the money that you're suing for.
That I loaned him, yes.
Yeah. You had a 99 automobile in the year 2000. Had you purchased it for payments or had you paid cash for it?
I paid payments, man.
So if you made payments on the car, the bank requires that you have insurance.
That's correct.
And did you have the car fixed after it was in the accident?
Yes, ma'am. I have
What
the
was-
papers right here to
He
show
didn't
that.
have insurance.
What?
He didn't have insurance.
Well,
he didn't have his license.
You weren't even driving. It ain't your car. You don't know.
Don't speak to her. Remember what I said. Mr. Williford tells me he had insurance, which he must do by law if he's got a financed car. Isn't that right, Bert?
That's absolutely right, Judge.
And I assume that if you had a financed car, they allow you to have some sort of a deductible, usually $500. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So you had out-of-pocket expense of $500.
No,
Is that-
that's wrong.
Well, how could it be wrong, sir? That's the way insurance works.
Well, I didn't go through insurance, man, because she was an unlicensed driver, and she had made the promise to me that she was going to pay me back the damage. Here's the
That's a lie,
estimate
Your
from the
Honor.
car.
No.
She was
That's
gonna
what
pay
you
me
have insurance for, Mr. Williford.
Yeah, but then your insurance claims go up. I gotta pay more per month. It wasn't worth it. I'd rather pay the cash and get it fixed at the dealership.
Is that what you did?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And that's what your choice was. If you asked the plaintiff to drive your car, and according to you, you knew she was an unlicensed driver, then you took that risk. And if you choose not to go through your insurance, she would certainly be liable for the $500 deductible, because that would have been your out-of-pocket expense. You chose not to do that. Now, in addition to the $1,500 that she gave you to fix the car, you said she gave you another $2,000. What do you claim that was for, Mr. Williford?
The $2,000 that she gave me was for fixing my car, a down payment towards the $4,800 total damage. I don't know about no $1,500. I only know about $2,000.
Your Honor, I have the return check.
May I see it, please?
It's for $3,100, and also there, and these are the
Well,
statements.
$2,000 and $1,500 does not add up to $3,100. Even I know that.
My money was in my mom's account. Since I had already given him $400, I was only going to give him $1,100 to total $1,500 for what I was giving him,
I
plus the $2,000 he wanted to borrow.
I got you. To the best of your knowledge, has Mr. Williford had any other trouble with drug dealers?
Probably. That was his lifestyle.
Even when you were together?
I had moved away to Sacramento, and in that time, 6 months period, when I came back, he was a total different person.
Different, not better.
No.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Williford?
I'm a musician, ma'am.
You work regularly?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
Different studios. I'm working on recording a demo right now.
Is there any record that you ever made that Bird might have heard of?
A record that I made that Bert might have heard of? No, ma'am, I haven't released anything yet.
So who pays you?
My corporation that I work with, people that I'm talking to.
And what kind of musician are you?
I'm a rapper, man.
Bird and I don't know about that.
Oh, man, you're missing out. You don't know. Hip-hop is live.
I know. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sorry, excuse you.
All
Step
right.
out.
Let's go. Everything's all good, man. I'm taking care of my life. I'm going on. It's all good.
Yeah, I needed to get the money that I helped him out with, and he needs to take responsibility for it.
Probably be a loser.
And now the next case.
All parties on Williams versus Hume. Step forward, please.
19-year-old student Jennifer Williams is suing her ex-boyfriend, 19-year-old student Michael Hume, for attorney's fees, money loaned, and for kicking down her door.
Ms. Williams, the defendant is a former boyfriend of yours. I gather you were arrested on some sort of a warrant from when you were a juvenile. Is that
Yes,
right?
probation violation.
And at that time, according to you, Miss Williams, he's in jail, and you loaned him some money to buy some socks and other toothpaste, I guess, combs,
Yes, ma'am.
shaving stuff. That wasn't a lot of money. How much was it?
$200.
Did he ask you for that money?
He asked for the money to be put in his account. I said I would do it as long as he paid me back.
Did you say that to him?
Yes, I did.
You remember that?
Not at all. I don't.
Do me a favor, don't laugh.
Sorry.
Did she put any money into your account?
Yes, she did.
How much?
She said 200.
How did she know you needed money in your account?
Well, I made phone calls.
And what did you say?
I said that we have commissary and I would like some money, and she sent me money. Some of that money, I was under the understanding that some of that money came out of one of my paychecks when I was working security before I was incarcerated.
Did you have any paychecks of his that he got after?
No, ma'am. None of the money that was put into his commissary account came out of his paycheck. That all came out of my paychecks.
Where was his paycheck?
At Sandy's house, who was his employer at the time. It was at her house.
So you never got his
No,
paycheck?
ma'am.
Okay. Now let's talk about the lawyer, because that's a much bigger bill. You say that you paid for his lawyer.
Yes, ma'am.
And how much was that?
Well, I had thought it was $1,100. I have the receipts. It says it was $1,200.
But you sued for 11.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That's it.
Okay. Tell me, how come you paid for his lawyer?
I went to go see him in jail. It was originally understood he was going to get a court-appointed lawyer. Then he had called me and said he didn't want a court-appointed lawyer, that he had wanted a real lawyer. And then the next day when I had gone to see him in jail, I told him I would pay for the lawyer as long as he paid me back when he got out of jail.
A lot of that is false.
Just tell me the story, sir.
Okay.
And try standing up straight and looking at me.
Sorry.
Good.
Basically,
looking at me. I'm not there. I'm here.
okay, sorry. I told both her and her mother that I was fine with a court-appointed lawyer. I didn't agree to pay them back at all. I also it was never in writing or anything. I'd never said that. It was just never said. I was just under the understanding that she was paying for my lawyer to be nice because she loved me, blah, 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 you know.
There's a lot there to love.
Thanks.
Well, if you didn't want her to pay for your lawyer, and if you were just as happy with the public defender, why didn't you just say to the lawyer when the lawyer came to see you in jail, I have a lawyer, thank you very much, I don't need a lawyer.
Well, I didn't have a court-appointed lawyer yet.
So you had no lawyer and you're sitting in jail?
Not yet. I hadn't.
Just pay attention.
Okay.
You had no lawyer, and you're sitting in jail. How old are you?
19.
Had you been in jail before?
Yes.
For how long?
Around 2 months.
Did you know her then?
No, no, I did not.
When you met him, had you known that he'd spent some time in jail?
The first time I met him was when we were both working at Friendly's. I didn't find out he was in jail then until the third week we knew each other. We weren't dating yet.
But then you found out that he had been incarcerated. Did you know what for?
Over the months we had dated, he had explained things. All I knew is that he had a probation violation, possession of marijuana, possession of a controlled substance, eluding the police. List goes on and on.
You still on probation?
No.
So you're not drug screened anymore, is that
No.
right?
Correct.
How did I know that?
You're really intelligent.
You're really right. What else?
Well, as far as him for telling you that he had never said he would pay me back, my witness was there at the time. She is my mother. She was in the room with us when he said it.
Let me hear you. Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Let me hear what you heard. Where were you first?
We were in the lawyer's office. His father had mentioned, I'm not going to pay for your lawyer. And Michael had said, I will pay you back.
So you were all sitting together?
Yes. And the first time we had talked about the lawyer, I had gone with my daughter to see him in jail. And he said, don't worry, Ma, I'll pay you back when I get out of jail and I get a
is that
job.
what he called you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. What else?
He put a hole in my door, my bedroom door, when we were fighting one night.
Forget it. Let me tell you something. Was this after he got out of jail?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
After he got out of jail, I wouldn't have let him back in my bedroom at all.
And I was very stupid to do so.
Fine. Then you pay for the door out of your own stupidity.
All right.
Where are you working at? What is that around your neck?
This? Necklaces.
One or more?
2.
What are they made out of?
Just aluminum and metal.
Where are you working now?
Right now, I'm actually not working. I'm applying, though, at various jobs.
Who are you living with?
I'm living with my friend.
This friend?
No, not this friend.
What kind of friend?
He restores cars.
What else does he do? Does he sell? Is he a business person?
No, not at all.
Does he sell anything
No.
other than restoring cars?
No,
No.
People want him to sell his car, but he won't do it.
I wasn't talking about cars necessarily. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,300. That's all.
Parties are excused.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Adams versus Canham. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Jennifer Adams is suing her former classmate, 17-year-old student Christy Canham, for breaking her ankle during a fight.
Miss Adams, according to your complaint, the defendant assaulted you, you were injured, you want to be compensated. That's what the case is about. How do you know her?
We went to grammar school and the high school together.
Where did this assault take place?
At Annie's house.
At this young lady's house?
Yeah.
When?
October 2nd, 2001.
What was the dispute about?
The dispute was over a CD, but there's more to it. In August of this year, we had a get-together also at Annie's house where everybody had gone in the house except for Christy and my fiance. And after everyone was inside, she said something to the extent of, fiance or not, I've had guys cheat on their girlfriends with me before. So he came in the house and he told me about it and didn't do anything about it at that time. We all went to bed and we hadn't seen each other really during this time from August to October when the incident happened. My CDs had been left at the restaurant where she works and somebody had gone through them.
You went to the restaurant where she works?
No.
Who left the CDs at the restaurant where she works?
Her little brother had my CDs, left them at the restaurant. Somebody went through them and took out a whole bunch of CDs, but she took one and took it to Hawaii with her.
So she had one of your CDs?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went out to Annie's on October 2nd.
What did you go to Annie's for?
Because we're friends.
Was she expecting you?
It was just we go out there all the time. Nobody expects anyone.
The defendant was there?
Yes.
Did you know the defendant was going to be
Yeah.
there? So when you walked into the house, who was present?
Annie, Jimmy, and Stephanie.
Who's Stephanie?
And she's another friend of ours.
And the defendant?
Yes.
What happened when you got there?
When I got there, I walked in the door. Chrissy was standing on the opposite side of the room. I asked her where my CD was. She just kind of stood there looking at me. And I said, you heard me, where is my CD? She said, at my house. And I said, well, you better get it. And she asked why I was yelling at her. I said, because I didn't like her anyways, and her stealing my CD was the last straw. She asked me why I didn't like her. There was more arguing during this time, but when I said that I didn't like her, I said it was because she was a scandalous. And I went to walk into the kitchen, and I turned my back. She was sitting in a chair.
She was sitting?
Yes, she was sitting. By this time, she was sitting.
Was she sitting at the time that you came in and started calling her names?
No.
She was standing?
Yes.
But then she sat down?
Yes.
Okay, so you're walking into another room, she's sitting?
Yes.
What happened next?
So I went to walk into the kitchen. I saw her out of the corner of my eye come at me. So I turned around. She went to hit me. I blocked her hit, put her in a headlock. So I had her in a headlock, and she was hitting me, and I was hitting her. She couldn't get away from me, so she turned me sideways, pushed me to the ground, snapping my ankle in 2 places. And Annie came over and pulled her off of me. When she did, Christy kicked me while I was on the ground. And then Annie helped me up. I walked into their computer room because that's where Stephanie was. It was about 10 feet. And Annie came in to see if I was all right, and I said, no, you need to take me to the emergency room. I can't walk. Jimmy came and picked me up and carried me to the car. While he was carrying me to the car, she was standing on the steps of the front of their house, yelling, you stupid, get back here, I'm going to kick your ass. I couldn't even stand. So Jimmy puts me in the car, and we're going to the emergency room. I told Annie, I said, she hit me first. Annie goes, I know, but she's only 17.
She didn't hit you first. It's not what you just told me. It's not what you just told me at all. You said she went to hit you, and you grabbed her and put her in a headlock.
She went to hit me, and I blocked her hit. She was still coming at me, and that's why I
That's
put
not
her
what
in
you
a
said to
headlock.
me. You said, according to you, she went to hit you, you blocked her, and put her in a headlock. That's what you just told me.
And I put her in a headlock because she was still coming at me. And we were
And what did
hitting
you
each
do
other.
when you put her in a headlock?
She was hitting me, and I was hitting her.
So you had a fight?
Yes.
And you got the worst of it?
Not. She pushed me to the ground and busted my ankle.
She pushed you to the ground during the course of a fight that you started.
She came at me.
She pushed you to the ground during the course of a fight that you started.
I was walking away from the situation, and she came at me from
After you had
behind.
started it.
So
if you were going to testify, is that what you would testify to? Exactly what she said? Huh?
Yes.
Perfect. Somebody's going to always get the worst of a fight. Isn't that right, Bird?
It's usually how it happens, Judge.
Usually how it happens. This time you got the worst of the fight. You walked into your friend's house and created a scene, and you didn't get any response from her the first time. You said to her, give me the blank CD. Give me the blank CD. Then, clearly, according to you, I'm not even going to her. According to you, she was standing, but then she sat down. And then you continued to call her names.
We were yelling at each other.
She didn't start yelling at you. You walked in and immediately, according to you, started to call her foul names. Right?
Yeah.
So you got a broken ankle? Huh? You got a broken ankle during the course of the fight?
Yes.
That's what happens. Suck it up. That's all.
These are excuses. You may step out. Now, this is case number 230 on the calendar in the matter of Thomas versus Thomas. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Thomas, the defendant is your former husband, and according to your complaint, he purposefully vandalized your car. When did he do this?
August the 5th.
Where were you?
When the incident happened,
Yes.
I was at his mother's house.
Did he live there as well?
Yes, he does live there.
When were you divorced?
We are not divorced legally.
Because in your complaint, you say, my ex-husband. So he's not your ex-husband.
Well,
He's your husband.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have children?
Yes, we do.
How many children do you have? Two?
2 boys.
And you maintain a reasonable relationship with his family?
Somewhat.
What were you doing at his house?
His sister called me that morning to come over.
For what?
We was friends. Me and his sister was good friends. She had called me. Previous to that, me and Marcus was on the phone, had an heated argument over the phone.
What'd you have an argument with him about?
The kids, as usual. The children. We argued because I seen the kids with his father the day before that, and I didn't like the way that they had looked, what they had on. And so when I called him up, I know how we can't really get along. So I said, before you get mad or anything like that, you know how I am, before we argue, I just want to ask you a question. And that's exactly what I did. I said, well, how come the kids, when I went to go see the kids, they had on clothes that was too small, their hair wasn't combed, and,
Who has custody of the children?
I do.
So they were visiting with him?
They were visiting with their dad.
Take your hands out of your pockets. Okay, so you had a fight about that.
So we got into an argument about that.
And then the next day, his sister called and said, come on over.
His sister called, said, come on over. I came over there. Marcus comes walking through the door, and I was sitting down. He came over to me and walked over. What's up, B? I'm not going to say the word, what's up, B? I was still sitting there. He wasn't looking at me when he said it. So I wasn't, I'm like, well, I know he's not talking to me. He comes over again. I said, what's up, B? So I stands up. I was like, you're a B. So he gets done yelling. He goes outside. He's out there a minute. I hear my alarm going off on my car. I go look outside. I don't see Marcus nowhere near my car. I don't see Marcus at all. I'm thinking that he maybe left. He's mad and he left. I come back inside. I sit down. I'm like, see, that's why I don't like coming over here, because of this. Right after that, maybe a minute, he comes back in the door. He continues yelling some more. We're still arguing, calling each other names back and forth as we usually do. It's a history with us. So he's yelling at his parents then. He's yelling at them, mad at them. While he's doing that, I get my keys and I'm leaving. And he comes out. His sister comes out with me. His sister comes out. She's like, come on, Tasha, let's go around the corner and cool off. Okay, fine. We're leaving. He comes out behind us and he's still yelling, I hate you, you ain't nothing but a B and da-da-da and all this. And I'm like, well, I hate you too. So I'm getting in the car to leave, and I rolled down my window to finish arguing with him. Why? I don't know, but I did. We're arguing some more. He comes over to my car like he's getting ready to sock me, but I'm rolling my window up. So he hits my window. I get out the car. Oh, you trying to hit me, Marcus? No, I ain't trying to hit you. Da-da-da. So we're just still arguing there, calling names. I get out the car. I go to my trunk like I'm getting ready to get something to, fight him back with. And I'm like, no, because the last time I was here last year, we had an incident before, where I got hit and,
Why didn't you just drive away?
That's what I did after,
Well, no.
Why didn't I drive away at
You're
the beginning?
in the car. You're exchanging words. You could have started the car and driven away. Why did you get out of the car and go to the trunk?
Because I was mad. I wanted to find a bat or something in the trunk to
And
fight
what were you
him
going
with.
to? And what were you going to do with it? You're going to hit him with it.
Mm-hmm.
So then what happened?
We're still arguing. I'm getting ready to drive off. He picks up a steel pole and just scratches my car. And I'm like, oh, you scratched my car? Fire. So I drive off after that. I turn around. His sister's in the car with me the whole time, seeing everything. We drive around the corner. I get out and I look. I seen the scratch that he did, and I seen the license plates and just like a little dent on my hood that I did. And I told Carrie to get out. I said, see what your brother did to my car? I have a witness. This is what he did. Get back in the car. Go back around. I drop her off before we get to the house. He's still out there. So I backs back up and I go to the police station to file a report.
Okay. Let me see the car damage.
I have pictures before the car damage and after.
Okay.
Basically, she came to the house and I had showed up. We got into an argument,
What'd you get into an argument for?
Because she called me, told me, don't get mad. And she was like, how dare you have my kids outside looking ghetto?
Just a second. Okay. But then she's at your house with your parents.
Right.
What happened when you came in?
I called her. It's like, why are you here? You don't like my family. You never get along with my family. Get out. You know what I'm saying? And she's like, I don't have to leave.
But it's in your business. It's not your house.
I live there.
I don't care if you live there. It's your parents' house.
Okay. Yes, it is.
So she's there. Why did you come in and disrespect your wife in front of your parents?
I just was like, man, I didn't think that she should be there. If she hates my mom, she hates my dad. She always is causing conflict. And then,
Why didn't you leave?
I don't know. Just because, I don't know. Because I was
All
mad.
right, so
no reason.
Then you went outside.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do when you went outside?
I was just like, man, have her leave. You know what I'm saying? I moved. I was in the street.
What did you do to her car when you went outside?
At first, I went by her car. I was mad. I started shaking her car. She came outside. Then she didn't do anything, so I pushed on the car some more. It was going doop doop. Made a little noise, and then she came outside.
You're talking about pushing the alarm.
Yeah, I tried to trick her alarm so she'll come outside, so she'll leave. Because I knew that would make her actually leave because she loves her car. I mean, she's material. She loves it. So I was like, I know she'll leave. So when I did that, she came outside. I was like, you gotta mess up my car. Oh man, start screaming at me too. So I was like, okay. And I was like, well, just leave. Just get in your car and go. So she gets in the car. She's like, man, you try to mess up my car, I'll shoot you. I'll smoke you. Jumps out the car, goes to the trunk, opens the trunk up. And it's like, you don't want to get shot. I was like, Daddy, you hear that? She said she's gonna shoot me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Natasha Thomas says her estranged husband, Marcus Thomas, vandalized her car. Marcus says Natasha threatened to shoot him.
She got back into the car.
Yes.
And you're still yelling at each other.
Basically.
Then you picked up a
pole.
Why?
I don't know. I was just angry because she said she was going to shoot me.
Well, you knew she wasn't going to shoot you because she was in the car,
I
sir.
threw the pole at her before she got out the car. She said she was going to shoot me out the window. She said, I'll smoke you. So I threw the pole. I had a pole in my hand. And I threw it on the ground, and it bounced up and hit the door. That's when it made that scratch on the door. Then she jumped out the car and opened the trunk and was searching through her trunk like she was actually getting something. I don't even remember exactly what happened after that.
Can I see the estimates on your car, please?
There's an incident report, too.
What I find interesting, Ms. Thomas, is that you left out of your complaint the fact that you did, in fact, get out of your car and go and tell him that you were going to shoot him. How come you left that out of your complaint?
I didn't do it purposely.
Okay. Well, that was pretty stupid.
Yeah, it
Right?
was stupid.
Right, because you could have gotten your car and just left. I mean, that doesn't excuse
It was
him
stupid.
damaging your car. You damaged your car. What year car is this?
2000.
What kind of work do you do?
It's concession stand manager at Safeco Field.
What kind of work do you do?
Well, I was working there, but they fired me because she said I harassed her, which I don't. So
No.
I work for a local 440 union doing construction.
It's going to cost $1,831.25 to fix this damage. You have a car?
Actually, I don't.
But you know she loves her car.
Yeah, she loves everything material, of course.
You had no reason and no right to put your hands on her car to trip
Yeah,
the
that
alarm.
is true. That is true.
Yeah, it sure is. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,831.25.
She's just a bitter woman that needs to find a new life.
Marcus needs to be responsible, learn how to grow up.
She came to my house. She provoked me from the very beginning.
He has a problem with himself for taking care of his responsibility.
This is just one incident that she actually happened to win.
As far as us being civil, I hope that can happen for the kids' benefit.
And woman, stay away. And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Pettigrew, Ray versus Alexander. Step forward, please.
Daycare provider Denise Ray and her children, 13-year-old Joanne Pettigrew and 10-year-old Ebony Pettigrew, are suing former friend, 55-year-old school teacher William Alexander for the return of two $1,000 savings bonds.
Miss Ray, according to your complaint, you've known the defendant for most of your life. Is that right?
Yeah.
He's been sort of a mentor to you and to your family. According to him, he even raised one of your children. Is that right?
No, not necessarily.
Well, what do you mean not necessarily? You had 3 children?
Yes, I did.
An older boy?
Yes.
Did the oldest boy live with you continuously until he reached the age of 18?
No.
Who did he live with?
The defendant.
Right. Well, that's what I said.
Okay.
According to you, there came a time several years ago when you came into some money as a result of a claim because of the earthquake in California. You had a couple of $1,000 and you wanted to put aside some of that money for your children.
Yeah.
So you asked the defendant to get savings bonds for your 3 children.
Yes.
How much money did you give him to get the savings bonds?
$1,500.
$1,500. So
Yes.
you wanted a $500 savings bond for each of your 3 children.
Yes.
Now, one of the children, the oldest child, whose name is?
Edward.
Edward. Did Edward get his bond?
He's here, yes.
Edward?
Yeah.
Did you get your bond?
Yeah.
From Mr. Alexander.
Yeah.
That leaves 2 $500 bonds left.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
That Mr. Alexander is holding for your children. And you want?
The bond's double value, Your Honor, to $1,000.
Well, when did you give him the money?
In 94.
Okay.
August 8th. Well, approximately August 8th, 1994.
Where are the bonds, Mr. Alexander?
I have them here, and they were
May
purchased.
I see them, please?
Yes.
Sir. Sir.
Okay. And they were purchased August 11th, 1994.
3 days off.
Well, they are $1,000 bonds.
Yes.
In the names of the children or Mr. Alexander, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Tell me why you want these bonds now. Tell me why you want to hold them for your children.
Because I want no more dealings with Mr. William Alexander. Of course, I know some statements were made in his statement regarding my lifestyle at the time. I'm not in denial anymore. Yes, I had a substance abuse history. But the thing about it, what led up to my substance abuse history was kept hidden in the dark for years.
Was that his fear? And was that your fear? Is that
was
why
my
you
fear.
gave him the money to buy the bonds for the children rather than buying them yourself?
No, at the time that we were to purchase the bonds, I didn't have Edward's social security number. The day that we were at the bank purchasing the bonds, I filled out all the original paperwork with my name as payee for these children until they turned 18 for these bonds. Mr. Alexander asked me to let him hold the money and the paperwork until that following Monday. I says, okay, I'll trust you. Come that following week, when I asked Mr. Alexander for the bonds or my money, he told me he wasn't giving them to me.
I assume that you let him hold these bonds all of these years because you trusted him.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You trusted him, and he certainly did everything that he could to live up to that trust because here are the bonds. He hasn't done anything with them. Here they are.
Okay, but Your Honor, it's more to the story than... I don't want no more dealings with Mr. Alexander. Mr. Alexander is...
I don't want any more dealings with Mr. Alexander. Do you have a problem with her holding the bonds for the children?
No, I don't have a problem at all.
Fine. Good.
Okay.
Because she really can't cash them.
No.
Because they are for either of the children or you.
Exactly.
So if she went in to cash the bonds, she could not cash them. These bonds are going to have to sit there until the children reach their majority.
I gave the bonds to her last year when she asked, and she became angry because I wouldn't sign them over. I said, if you want the bonds, you may keep the bonds until the children are 18. It's their money.
Right.
No.
No what?
No, he did not.
Okay, well, just so we don't have a problem anymore.
I want my bonds changed over to their godmother.
No. You can't have that. Period. I'm not doing that. You can hold your children's bonds because that's what you want to do. If you feel as if you have a safe place in your home or if you have a bank vault, you can take the bonds and put them there and wait for your children to reach their majority, and then you give them the bonds, and at that time they should be even worth more than $1,000.
Exactly.
Because it's a while. How old are you?
10.
And you?
13.
13. Well, got a way to go. These are going to be worth a lot more than $1,000.
But I paid for those bonds.
So what? What do you want me to do?
I don't want nothing to do with. I don't want nothing.
You don't have anything to do with
but
it.
His
Madam.
name is on them.
You're absolutely right, which means that you cannot cash them. The only thing that means is you cannot cash them. These are for the children. This is what you intended it for. You intended these bonds for the children.
But I didn't intend for his name to be on them, Your Honor.
Well, then don't look at them. Don't look at them. Put them away. And when your children reach the age of 18, you give each of your children a bond. One of the children should have about $2,000.
They don't need his assistance for anything, right?
No, to do these?
I just don't want
Absolutely
to live my
not.
children's life,
Shh,
period.
Listen to me. All this says is Ebony or William. Means either one of them can sign these bonds, but Ebony can't do it until she's 18.
Okay.
Yes.
And Juwan can't do it until he's 18. Other than that, these are your children's bonds. Perfect. We just resolved this case. Give her the bonds.
Whatever.
Mr. Alexander, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You don't have control of nothing.